Hey, what's going on? This is about conservatism. I want to do this so I can just make a statement, and I got some links, and I'm pull it out to y'all. Yeah. Let me get set up. Let me get set up. I'll put this on the educational and things like that. We'll just get right into it. There's no need to let's do the formalities. I will stream later with the Sunday chills. It'd be like 7:50. I'll be back later at 7:50, but I don't know how long the string is gonna be. I got some information. I'm just gonna drop some key links and things like that. It's gonna be we're gonna see how this goes. Because I know people are not streaming. This is my day of Sunday, so I usually stream around these days. So let's break this down. I'm gonna make the screen bigger. Just give me 1 second. Okay. Now, conservatism, let's start this from the top. And you dudes don't even study this shit in the space. I've noticed. Y'all so dumb. Let's read what it is. Okay, so conservatism is a social, cultural, political philosophy that primarily arms to promote and preserve traditional values and institutions, held to be either in good in themselves or better than likely alternatives, or at least safe, familiar, and the objects of trust and affection. But the central tenets of the conservatism may vary in let's read this part again. The central tenets of the conservatism may vary in relations to the traditions and values of the culture, civilization in which it appears. In Western culture, conservatives seek to conserve a range of things such as organized religion, property rights, existing system of government and family values, the natural environment, and classical and vernacular agriculture. Adherents of conservatism often oppose modernism. We'll get to that later. And seek, okay, let's read modernism. Okay, modernism is a philosophical movement and an art movement to arose from the broad transformation in the Western society during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The movement reflects the desire of creation of new forms of art, philosophy, and social. That's what they mean by modernism. Okay, and seek for the return of the traditional values. But I'll say the first established used the term in a political context originated in 1818 with Francis Rene de Chateaubriand, right, this guy right here, the French guy, during the period of the Bourbon Restoration that sought to roll back policies of the French Revolution historically associated with the right wing politics. Let's read that again. During the period of the Bourbon Restoration that sought to roll back policies of the French Revolution historically associated with right wing politics. The term has since been used to describe the wide range of views. There is no single set of policies regarded as conservative because the meaning of conservatism depends on what is considered traditional in any given place and time. Conservative thought has varied considerably as it adapted itself to existing traditions and national cultures. For example, some conservatives advocate for greater government intervention in the economy, while others advocate for a more laissez-faire, free market economic system. See, here's for example, some conservatives advocated for greater government, like they say, intervention, and we say economic interventionism, sometimes also called state interventionism, is economic policies positioning favoring government intervention in the market process to correct market failures and promote the general welfare of the people. And economic intervention is an action. That's what they say. And the other part is laissez-faire, free market. And what does that mean? Transactions between private groups of people are free from or almost free from any form of economic interventionism, such as regulations, subsidies. As a system of thought, laissez-faire resets on the axioms that the individual is the basic unit in society. That's laissez-faire. That doesn't exist anymore. Thus, conservatives form different parts of the world each upholding their respective traditions, may disagree on a wide range of issues. Edmund Burke. Okay, let's know what he looks like. Edmund Burke, he's a philosopher. Okay. An 18th century politician opposed the French Revolution, but he supported the American Revolution and is credited as one of the main theorists of conservatism in 1790s. Let's read that again. Edmund Burke, an 18th century politician who opposed the French Revolution but supported the American Revolution, is credited as one of the main theorists of conservatism in the 1790s. Okay. We got conservatism right here on the boards: cultural, physical, green, liberal, libertarian, national, paternalistic, pragmatic, progressive, populist, social, and traditionalist. These are variants of it. That's what they have in the wiki, but it's a little different. But in philosophy, philosophers, Burke. Here's they got philosophers on it. They got Johnson, Samuel Johnson, David Hume, Edmund Burke, Hannah More, Joseph Maire Comedy de Maistre, the French guy, Louis Gabriel Ambros, Victime del Banald, another French guy right here. Yeah, Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Yeah, so you got your famous philosopher conservatives. And politicians, you got Adams, John Adams, Carmazine Cannon, Disraeli, Bismarck, yeah. John Enoch Powell, Margaret Hella Thatcher, she's one. Ronald Reagan, yeah, Ronald Reagan became conservative in the 80s, but back in the day he was a liberal, so they added him. That makes sense. Yes, he was conservative through and through, but he did win against the grain. That's a whole nother topic. I ain't gonna get into Reagan. A lot of people love Reagan, some people hate him. It's a up and down. They try to assassinate him, so I'm gonna give him a pass because he's decent. A lot of people worry about the drugs. Who cares? The white men don't care about us. No way. They just use him as a piece to move the goalposts. I'm not gonna argue all about Reagan. Y'all don't know nothing about Reagan. It's two sides to the story why he was conservative. That's a whole nother series. Y'all can disagree all you want. I don't see it. Y'all like, no, he was put there. Don't be fooled by the white man. That's the trick. He was a liberal first, and then he became conservative. See, they just adding stuff. I see what they did in the wiki, so you got to be careful with this site, and I'm very careful placing blame because there's so many versions of conservatism. Ain't funny. The one we practice ain't even realistic. And these dudes think we talking about something. Okay, some writers, Samuel P. is a hierarchy, realism. Okay, liberal conservatism. Never heard of such. Libertarian conservatism. These are meanings. It's talking about intervention and things like that. And there's physical conservatism. Okay, there's three types of conservatism. Okay, let's read liberal conservatism. I don't see who's in the chat. What's going on, Third Ward? Salute, man. Appreciate you coming. Yeah, I'm gonna be in here for a minute. Liberal conservatism incorporates the classical liberal view of minimal government intervention in the economy. Intervention in the economy. Individuals should be free, participate in the market, generate wealth without government interference. However, individuals cannot be thoroughly dependent on the act responsibly in order spheres of life. Therefore, liberal conservatives believe that a strong state is necessary to ensure law and order in social institutions are needed to nurture a sense of duty and responsibility to the nation. Liberal conservatism is a variant of conservatism that is strongly influenced by liberal stances. Interesting. As there are two terms, as the latter two terms have different meanings over time across countries, liberal conservatism also has a wide range of meanings. Historically, the term often referred to the combination of economic liberalism. Let's hear that again. Historically, the term often referred to the combination of economic liberalism. let's look that up, is a political and economic ideology based on strong support for a market economy and private property and the means of production. Economic liberals tend to oppose government intervention in the market when it inhibits free trade and open competition, but support government. Okay. Which champions laissez-faire. This is laissez-faire version of liberal conservatism. Markets with classical conservatism, concern for the established traditional respect for authority and religious values, is contrasts itself with classical liberalism, which supports freedom for the individual in both the economic and social spheres. Over time, the general conservative ideology, many countries adopt physically conservative arguments, and the term liberal conservatism was replaced with conservatism. This is also the case in the countries where liberal economic ideas have been the traditional, such as the United States, are thus considered conservative. That's what they say is considered conservative. That's what they consider. But in other countries where liberal conservative movements have entered the political mainstream, such as Italy and Spain, in terms liberal and conservative may be synonymous. Liberal conservative tradition in the United States combines the economic individualism of the classical liberals with a Burkean form of conservatism, which has become part of the American conservative tradition, such as the writings of Russell Kirk. A secondary meaning for the term liberal conservatism that has developed in Europe is a combination of more modern conservatives, less traditionalist views with those of social liberalism. Social liberalism. Has developed as an opposition to the collectivist views of socialism. Often this involves stressing conservative views of free market and economics and belief in individuals' responsibility with communitarian views on defense of civil rights, environmentalism, and support for a limited welfare state. It says socialism often involves in stressing conservative views of the free market, economics, and belief in individual responsibly with communitarian views of defense of the civil rights, environmentalism, and the support for a limited welfare state. In continental Europe, this is sometimes also translated into English as social conservatism. This is liberal conservatism. That's another form of it. We're going to read the next form. It's called libertarian conservatism. This is a form of libertarianism as well, of conservatism. Okay. Describes certain political ideologies, most prominently within the United States, combine libertarian economic issues with aspects of conservatism. Its four main branches are constitutionalism, paleo-libertarianism, and small government conservatism, and Christian libertarianism. They generally differ from the paleo conservatives in that they favor more personal and economic freedom. Agorists such as Samuel Edward Connigan III labeled libertarian conservatism right libertarian. In contrast of the paleo conservatives, libertarian conservatives support strict laissez-faire policies such as free trade, opposition to any national bank, and opposition to business regulations. They are vehemently opposed to environmental regulations, corporate welfare, and subsidies in other areas of the economic intervention. Many conservatives, especially in the United States, believe in the government should not play a major role regulating business or managing the economy. That typically oppose efforts to charge high tax rates and redistribute income to the assist the poor. Such as efforts, they argue, only serve to exacerbate the scourge of unemployment, poverty by lessening the ability for business to hire employees due to higher tax impositions. Now, most people, if you want to identify as you're a conservative, Libertarian conservatism is a good fold. If you don't want no government oversight and you want to be responsible, have a country like that. I somewhat lean towards that for black people, but deep down, most of us, I've noticed people support liberal conservatism because laissez-faire rules and things like that. So libertarian conservatism is frowned upon as a form of libertarianism, and what you get into is one of the things that it's kind of like the small government. You're talking about libertarianism at the end of the day. That's what it is. And there's different levels to it, but you can be conservative or just libertarian. A lot of people try to say libertarian is liberal, but it's not. It's similar to conservatism. It's just very similar. You got to just be careful how you know these forms. This one is decent. That's what a black man should believe in free trade. The problem is a lot of people don't subscribe to it. That's the problem. It ain't enough people. Most people subscribe to liberal conservatism. That's why you got all these fake conservatives. They're basically liberal conservatives, but they're not really conservative. They're really liberal, what they're talking about. But they're not really built like that. So we don't know what these guys are. Now, physical conservatism, let's get into it. There's many forms of it. Physical conservatism is an economic philosophy of prudence in government spending and debt. In his Reflection or Revolution in France, Edmund Burke argued that the government does not have the right to run up large debts. Then throws the burden on the taxpayer. It is the property of the citizen, not the demands of the creator of the state. That is the first and original faith of civil society is pledged. Then claim of the citizen is prior in time. Paramount in title, superior in equity, the fortunes of the individuals rather possessed by acquisition or by descent, or in the virtue of a participation in the goods. Some community were not part of the creditor's security, expresses or implied. The public, whether represented by a monarch or by a senate, can pledge nothing but the public state, and it can have no public estate except in what it derives from just a proportionate imposition upon the citizens at large, whether representing, at large. Okay. That's physical conservatism. That's like overseas and things like that. Most people ain't that either. Okay, national conservatism. National conservatism is a political term used primarily Europe and describes a variant of conservatism which concentrates more on a national interest that the standard conservatism, as well as upholding the culture, ethic, identity, while not being outspokenly national or supporting a far right approach. In Europe, national conservatives are usually Eurosceptics. National conservatism is heavily oriented towards the traditional family and social stability, as well as favor of limiting immigration. As such as national conservatives can be distinguished from economic conservatives for whom the free market economic policies, deregulations, physical conservatism are the main priorities. Sometimes have identified growing gap between national and economic conservatism. Most parties of the right today are run by economic conservatives. That is so true. Who in varying degrees have marginalized social, culture, and national conservatives. National conservatism is also related to traditional conservatism. The reason you say that statement right there, it marginalized social, culture, and national conservatives, is because of the politics of what the times we live in. Because you can't be a national conservatism now. They want you to be a traditionalist and things like that. But conservatism is like a dog whistle. Traditional conservatism is a political philosophy emphasizing the need of the principles of natural law, transcend more order, tradition, hierarchy, organic unity, and agnonism, and classism. and high culture, as well as the intersecting spheres of the loyalty. Some traditionalists have embraced the labels reactionary, counter revolutionary, relying the sigma that has attached in these times since the Enlightenment, having the hierarchical with a view of society, but may transcend in conservatives, including a few. Americans defend monarchy, monarchical police. Americans defend matriarchal policy structure, most beneficial arrangement. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cultural conservatives. These are your grifters like people, cultural conservatives. Support the preservation of the heritage of one nation, of the shared culture is not defined by national boundaries. Shared culture may be as a divergent as a Western culture or Chinese culture. In the United States, the term cultural conservative may imply a conservative position in the culture war. Here's that word, culture war. Cultural conversations hold fast to traditional ways of thinking, even in the face of the monumental change. The belief strongly in the tradition values and traditional policies often have urgent, yeah, beneficial social arrangement. Okay. Monumental change. My fault. Almost dozed off a minute. They believe strongly in traditional and values in the traditional policies and often have an urgent sense of nationalism. Yeah, that's cultural conservatives like you got in these certain spaces. But, you got paternal conservatism, religious conservatism, social conservatism. Yeah, y'all know this progressive conservatism. I know that. Authoritarian conservatism. That's like dominating, like National Socialism in history. Progressive conservatism is Joe Clark, Joe Diefenbaker, R.B. R.B. Bennett, William Howard Taft. Talking about his story. America's more progressive than you think. Yeah, these are conservatives. I'm gonna put the wiki and the link in the chat so y'all can eat off that, and I'm gonna go furthermore. I done said enough in part one, but I might make a part two. I don't know. We'll see how this goes. But yeah, what's going on, Pastor $40 salute? What's going on, antisocial? Salute to y'all. I'm gonna put this in here because I'm trying to expound on what Mike was saying. So yeah. So we're gonna stop here. I'm gonna knock this off the board. Just give me a couple of minutes. And I was over at Kudas this morning. I was knocked out, like slept on the panel. He had 2 live shows, so yeah. U.S. Congressman Mike Johnson. We far in the segment. Oh, it's 23 minutes. Okay, we got time. 7 core principles of conservatism. Number 1, individual freedom. The birth of our great nation was inspired by the bold declaration that our individual God-given liberties should be preserved and all that stuff. Okay, freedom, God, and freedom's okay. 2, limited government. This is what their beliefs. The third rule of law, peace through strength is number 4. Number 5, physical responsibility. Number 6, free markets. Number 7, human dignity. That's his little thing. Okay. I'm just gonna skim through that. Okay. Last but not least, we're gonna go. I was something, but I say core beliefs. We're gonna go with Barry Goldwater. the founder of the modern conservatism today. Okay, let's see here. Yeah. Oh, we got this on. Okay. Barry Morris Goldwater, January 2nd, 1909. He was born as a Capricorn. He died in the Gemini, the end of the month, May 29th, 1988. He died in Gemini month, and then he was born as a Capricorn. Interesting. Was an American politician, statesman, businessman, and United States Air Force officer and author. Was let me read that again. Was American politician, salesman, United States Air Force officer and author who was 5-term senator in Arizona, 1953, 1965, 1969, 1987, and the Republican Party nominated president of the United States in 1964. Goldwater is a politician most often credited with high sparking resurgence American conservative political movement in I'll say in the 1987, and the Republican Party nominee for president in the United States in 1964. Goldwater is a politician most often credited with having sparked the resurgence of American conservative political movement in 1960s, despite his loss. Despite his loss of the 1964 presidential election is a landslide, many political pundits and historians believe he led his foundation for the conservative revolution to follow. As the grassroots organizations and conservative take over of the Republican Party began a long-term realignment in American politics, which helped bring about the Reagan Revolution in the 1980s. He also had a sustained impact on libertarian movement. It sounds like an argument. Okay, let's see who's in here. Y'all give me a second. I'm gonna be on mute. Yeah, I'm back at it again. At a stretch. Goldwater was born in Phoenix in what was then the Arizona Territory, where he helped manage his family department store upon United States entry into World War II. Goldwater received a reserve commission in the United States and Army Air Force, but he trained as a pilot and was assigned to Ferry Command, a newly formed until the flew aircraft that supplies to the war zones worldwide. After the war, Goldwater was elected to the Phoenix City Council in 1949. He won the election in U.S. Senate in 1952. In the Senate, Goldwater reject the legacy of the New Deal along with the conservative coalition. Longer against the New Deal coalition also have reputation as a maverick for his challenging his party's moderate to liberal wing on policy issues. That's what he did. policies issues. A member of the NAACP, active supporter of desegregation in Phoenix, Goldwater voted in favor of the Civil Rights Act in 1957, 1924 to the United States. Considerably anguished him in 1964. Let me turn it down. Let me get this down. Okay. 24th Amendment of the United States Constitution, but reluctantly opposed the civil rights of 1964 despite believing in racial equality, but he felt one of his provisions to be unconstitutional and potential overreach the federal government, a decade that unconstitutional potential overreach in the federal government decisions considerably anguished him. In 1964, mobilized large conservative contingency to win the hard-fought Republican presidential primaries. Although he raised as a Episcopalian, and Goldwater was the first candidate of Jewish descent, though his father to be nominated by a major president party. Goldman ultimately failed to gain support of the electorate. I was dozing off. Let me stop. I'm gonna drink something in a minute. Oh. Yeah, 1964. Almost lost my place. Goldwater platform failed. Okay. Goldwater returned to Senate in 1969, specialized in defense and the foreign policy as an elder statesman in the party. Yeah. Avoiding impeachment was an enemy. Yeah. This is his history. I'm going to get into it. Succeeded by John McCain. So, yeah, that's Barry Goldwater. His military career, early military in heavily democratic state. It's your boy. Y'all say y'all want to get with that. Y'all crazy. Georgia, South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, and Arizona are all red. Everybody else is blue. Not surprised. Yeah, that's it. That's a piece on Gary Goldwater. My God, my head is swirling, man. I don't know if I ate too much potatoes. I'm gonna read this part. Hold on. Okay. Let's see right quick. Shouts out to UD. We're gonna get into this in a minute. Me. Good afternoon, UD. The Man's Media Network. Oh, it's the man. What's going on, man? Salute. But I'm just gonna put this in the barn burner right now. Here we go. Let's see. Barry Goldwater, GOP hero dies. That's more information. Barry M. Goldwater, 89, five-term U.S. Senate from Arizona and a champion of conservatism whose 1964 presidential candidacy launched a revolution within the Republican Party, died yesterday at home, Raleigh Valley, a suburb of Phoenix. Okay, he suffered a stroke in 1996 and then damaged the part of the brain that controls the memory and personality. Late September, family members said he was in the early stages of Alzheimer's disease. Mr. Goldwater retired from a Senate in 1986. That was about 10 years later than he died. Okay. Party's most respected elder statesman suffered a resounding defeat when he ran for president, but his efforts helped prepare the way for the election. And another conservative Republican, Ronald Reagan, as president in 1980. Shoot. Mr. Goldwater carried only 6 states, 36% of the popular vote, 1964. At the election commentaries, yeah, y'all know about him. The one said no. Yeah, there you go right there. So, what's going on, SKC? Salute, man. Yeah, man. That's just a piece of him. You know, I know people talk about him a lot. I mean, yes, he was. I wouldn't say he's one of the founding fathers, but I say he's a piece. There's other conservatives. I might have to do a part two. This one is just a piece I wanted to do because I felt like it needed to be discussed. I mean, you could research different forms of conservatism on the wiki and things like that. I'll expound on them other two because I feel like when you get into it and when brothers get into it, I understand that people like the ideology and, you know, a lot of people think that's the future. Everybody's got different takes on it. Me, I'm more non-conservative though, but I understand there's levels to it. I mean, the history itself has been around. It's not I would say it's a new concept, and then it's also an old concept. It came from other ideologies. So yeah, conservatism means to conserve life and, you know, other small government things like that. And they got different levels of it. But this guy, what you have now, has modern conservatism, what you see today. That's why you had George Bush, George W., not H. Bush, but his son and others. They take his ideology. Back then, it wasn't accepted. He was challenging the moderates and liberals back then. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people didn't care back then. No, he cared about himself a little bit. I mean, he probably cared at the time in those states. I told you it was in certain states, except for Tennessee, where I'm originally from, and others. He would be considered the bad guy. So it's kind of a little hard. But yeah, Barry, yeah, it's a war guy. There's a lot of info on him. Let me get into my conservative bag. Let's go to Nolan chart. Since y'all want to play, let's play. Yeah, I'm gonna get into it. Hold on. Simple English. Now, that's it for Barry Goldwater. We'll see where this goes. Salute, Sir Anthony. What's going on, man? I don't know about that. You tell me. You know what? I'm going to keep. Let's talk about this. This is an extension of it earlier. Yeah, conservatism is a typical political belief that supports emphasis of traditions and relies on the individual to maintain society. The term was first used by Francis Rene de Chateaubriand in 1889. During the Bourbon Restoration, yeah, I read this. Yeah, and policies of French Revolution, right wing politics, blah, 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 Western culture. Okay, beliefs of conservatism. Conservatism tells support. Oh, man. Got the doze. Oh. Yeah, Western culture, for example, conservatives by maintaining things, organized religion, property things, parliamentary, government, and family values. Okay. Okay, belief. Conservatism tends to support the notion of faith, particularly Abrahamic traditions and conditions where those are dominant regions in England. The publication of Edmund Burke book reflects the dues. Okay, here's the beliefs. Conservatism tends to support the notion of faith, particularly the Abrahamic traditions in countries where those are the dominant religions. England population of Edmund Burke's book reflection. Yeah. Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, reflection of the revolution in France. But in this look, he book suggested he should satisfy the advocate of the correct government and two ideas together. And some conservatives seek keep things are, while others want to return the way things want an early. This often called reactionary conservatism. A conservative party in England, brand which is more suited to the male. Okay, and poor. Okay. They call it democracy. Okay. Here's the types: gradualism, process of change in a slow, gradual way. Liberal conservatism with the classical liberal view that the government should not control the economic and national conservatism. Conservatism that is forced more on culture, race. Yeah. That's liberal conservatism. We read that earlier. Conservatism with classic liberal view, government should not control the economy. Here's national conservatism that is forced more culture and race without being a nationalist or far right. Interesting take. Religious conservatism is that applies religion to practice. Let's go conservatives in different countries. Brazil, conservatism comes from its Portuguese roots, often being evangelical, such as President uh, Jair Bolsonaro in India. Conservatives in India and pro Hindu in Pakistan are socially conservative, and Bajra Jansi conservative. Conservatives, okay. Bharati Janata. Oh, hmm. In the United States, conservatives worry about centralism. Do not trust welfare state and consider business people trustworthy on agreeable prices. The Republican Party is a conservative political party from the United States. Okay, and it's conservative. I read it. I said I was gonna do libertarianism, but I'm gonna stop. But yeah, man. I just want to just pull that out and just say, hey, what's going on, 1G? Salute, man. Just gonna get down to it. We'll be very, very careful. We have to break it down. Okay, the Nolan chart. What you see here is Nolan chart, political spectral diagram created by American libertarian acts of David Nolan, 1969, charting political views along the two axes representing economic freedom, personal freedom, and expands political view. Analysts before in the traditional one-dimensional left-right progressive conservative divide, positioning libertarianism and outside traditional spectrum. Spectrum, my fault. Let's do right here. It's the simplified right here, conservative right, authoritarian, liberal left, libertarian. So I'm about to be knocked out. Okay, the bottom left. Yeah, this is a good topic, but yeah, I just want to show y'all the Nolan chart and things like that. But yeah, man, I talk about Barry Goldwater and things like that. I'll do a stream around 7 something and come back, and it's gonna be an open discussion. I'll talk about it, and this is just like, I don't know how short it's gonna be on time, but I'll stay up a little bit. Okay, let's go into libertarianism. We're gonna get into that and break down what creates and rejects and compulsions in society. Okay, we're gonna read and go in depth. Excuse me. Sorry, y'all. Okay. We're gonna get this last part. When it gets to an hour, we'll see. We'll get in here. Okay. It's 2:10. Yeah, we got time. Oh, what's going on, Mike V? Salute. Yeah, damn, they in here today. Okay. I don't know. I done got enough. I almost dozed off for a minute. Yeah, I got the Barry Goldwater. I'm gonna leave him up after this, and it talks about him a bit. I'm gonna search more, and I'm gonna bring in Phil Valentine. Hold on, y'all. The white guy that passed away, and he didn't want to take the COVID shot, which is pretty interesting. He's important too, and break down the philosophy of it. And I'll say Valentine. Yeah, American radio host. He's from Nashville, North Carolina. That makes sense. That's where he's born. Died in Tennessee. He went to East Carolina. Okay. Yeah. I'll show you the picture in a minute. We'll get in the wiki. Yeah. I done got a second win. Okay. This is like basic philosophies. We're going to get into libertarianism. Okay. It includes broad spectrum of political philosophies, each sharing the common overall priority in minimal government combined with optimal possible individual liberty. Its goal prioritize freedom and freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and freedom to bear arms, freedom of informed religion, the freedom of press, freedom of ownership, and economic freedom, It promotes personal responsibility and private charity, as opposed to the provision of welfare service by the state. And it rejects the compulsions of socialism and communism. Individual libertarians may differ considerably over particularly issues, and although there are libertarian political parties worldwide, even these differ significantly in their outlooks and policies. There is also significant disparity between the usage of the term in the United States, where it is often considered synonymous with liberalism and individualism in general, and conservatism in particular, especially insofar as it supports limited government, and elsewhere, where it is more often understood to refer to radical left currents of anarchism. Yeah, it gets its take. And here's the utilitarian philosopher. It's a connection to it, like I mentioned before, the Mike V. That's all it came from, that doctrine, that theory. A lot of it comes from that theory, and then you see why societies do exist. I'm gonna mention utilitarianism, the birth of that, and birth of ideologies and books of people and things like that. I might have to do a stream on your famous utilitarian people that people don't talk about when they mention terms like that. It's well known in the 2.0 space. Okay. Generally speaking, libertarians defend the ideal of freedom and perspective of how little one is constrained by authority, i.e., how much one is allowed to do negative liberty, as opposed to the opportunity ability to act to fulfill one's own potential positive liberty. A distinction first noted by John Stuart Mill, but they view life, liberty, and property as the ultimate rights possessed by individuals, and the compromising one necessarily endangers the rest. They consider a compromise of these individual rights by political action to be tyranny of the majority, a term first coined by Alex D. Tocqueville, born in 1805 to 1859, and made famous by John Stuart Mill. Many libertarians would also argue, however, let me read that again. I'll say made by famous by John Stuart Mill. Many libertarians would also argue, however, that representative majority rule democracy has largely become controlled by special interest groups who represents a minority, leading to a tyranny of the minority against the real numerical majority. But the term libertarian stems from the French word libertari, for liberty, and its first recorded use in a political sense was in 1857 by anarcho-communist Joseph Dewacki, 1821, 1864. But in common uses, libertarian refers to a person who advocates liberty, especially with regard to thought or conduct, or a person who maintains the doctrine of free will. Yeah. Here's the history of libertarianism. We're going to break this down. The history of libertarianism is also a history of the classical liberalism, and the two concepts are very close related, but the initial theory arose from Enlightenment ideas in 18th century Europe and America, especially the political philosophies of John Locke and Baron de Montesquieu, 1689 to 1755, but the moral and the economic philosophy of Adam Smith. Locke believed that the role of any legislation was protecting natural rights in the legal form of civil rights. He proposed labor theory of property, where each individual owns the fruit of his efforts by virtue of his labor, and from this is an economic emergence based on private property and trade, with money as the medium of coverage. Yeah, Montesquieu. Okay, here we go. Right here. Here we go. Here, John Stuart Mill declared his first preferred doctrine of utilitarianism, and requires the political arrangements satisfy the liberty of principle, where each person is guaranteed the greatest possible liberty. that would not interfere with the liberty of others in order to maximize happiness. See, he had libertarian views, but he was a utilitarian philosopher. And there it goes. And there goes socialism, progressivism in the United States in the 20th century. Yeah, Europe increasingly focused on the advancement of work and civil rights, social justice, counter-react, increasing excesses of rampant capitalism, industrialism, but it's also the only latter half of the 20th century that the term libertarian, which had early been associated with anarchism, came to be adopted by those whose attitudes bore close resemblance to classic liberals. Some people call them classic liberals, but it's complicated. It can be a bit of both. Yeah, libertarianism got many forms of it, but this is a philosophy site y'all can look at and read. Types of libertarianism. I ain't gonna get into that, so I ain't got much time on that. We're gonna get into the people. Let's see. I'm gonna keep it up. Let's go with the conservative Bill Valentine, because I believe. Oh shit. Let's see. No, it's 50 something minutes. I ain't on the 10 die yet. Let's go with Phil Valentine. This is the one died with the COVID. Shit. Oh man. Yeah, he is SKC. Yes, he is. So damn consistent. Okay. This is the guy that died with COVID. They say he's a popular conservative. His name is Phil Valentine. I heard his stuff years ago. I'm not like a fan of his or anything, but he's a well-known conservative. He's respected by mostly conservatives. I'm just saying, like, I think his name is Philip Carr Valentine, was American conservative talk radio host, author, and actor. Let's read that again. Phil Carr Valentine was American conservative talk radio host. He's a talk radio host and he's an author and actor. He broadcasts daily on the WTN and Columbus Media Station in Nashville, Tennessee. Yes, he's well known. He's a popular of that station in that city, and he hosted Phil Valentine's show, syndicate nationally through the Westwood One radio network. So yeah, he was born in the late 1950s. He would be in his 60s, but he died. Yeah, he didn't take the vaccine, whatever. So we'll get in his legacy. I mean, let's get in the wiki of him. Here you go, right here. This guy's a talk show radio host. If you look him up, you'll see what I'm talking about. He's popular in Nashville, and I think we're familiar with him in the state of Tennessee. Yeah, he was a popular conservative. Complications of COVID, they said his death. He went to East Carolina University. So, yeah, Tim Valentine, things like that, yeah. Let's see what his father looked like. Hold on. This is his father right here, Tim Valentine. Eating meal status, Tim Valentine Jr. He died in 2015. Okay, so he died a couple of years ago. Was a Democratic member of the United States House Representative for North Carolina from 1983 to 1995. So his father was a politician. That makes sense. So his father is Tim Valentine. That makes sense. He's the son of Tim Valentine Jr. This is Tim Valentine's son. His father's Tim Valentine, but we're going to go with his son Phil today because Phil just passed this year. He's a well-known conservative. I've heard of his stuff. He's well-known. His father is known as Tim Valentine. He was a Democratic House representative. That's why he's big on politics and things like that. In his education, yeah, 6-term Democratic representative Tim Valentine. He raised in Nashville, Carolina. There's a Nashville, Carolina. Yeah. Received poor grades in school, despised having a high IQ. He blamed his trouble concentrating in school and attention deficit disorder. Oh, he had ADD. I didn't know that. Yeah, Nashville 5. His dad was a Democrat. That makes sense. Oh shit, I hit the wrong thing. I hit the wrong thing. My fault, y'all. I didn't mean that. I didn't mean to hit that. Okay. Let's look at his radio career. Small market radio station, North Carolina. After graduating broadcasting, after sudden death of his mother when he was 21, Valentine moved to Nashville, Tennessee, when he sold health club memberships and worked part time as a disc jockey, means DJ. 3 years after moving to Nashville, began hosting the morning drive, the WLAC FM. He hosted talk radio station shows and weekends in 1991. In 1995, yeah, I remember the Phil Valentine talk show. Yeah, he was popular, conservative. He was well respected. Others media's non-fictional books, A to Z, ABC, Rebellion Against the Overbearing. Yeah, 2012, Incoming Truth. I think that was an Al Gore, Incoming Truth. Yeah. He had 3 sons. Okay. Yeah. What's the controversies had? State income tax. Don Sunquist. Yeah. The COVID-19. Yeah, he said some yeah, he's an outspoken skeptic. Yeah, he was a skeptic, like conservative, but this is the guy I'm talking about. He's well known. They don't talk about him in talk radio. He does talk about politics a little bit. That's just a brief of him. I'm gonna keep him up. And I'm just gonna say, yeah, man. Yeah, I feel like he is very important, but I'm gonna put it back on Barry Goldwater for a minute. And that's, y'all can read that. So I'm gonna give y'all this right here in the chat room because I feel like this needs to be talked about. Yeah, man. It's a small thing, so I'm just gonna go with it. I got time today. It's a short thing, so if y'all got any questions or points, let's see right quick. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Let's paste it real quick. I'll put this in here real quick because I know people, it's got a little disagreement or points, but let's see what's going on. But yeah, that's all I want to talk about, man. I talk a little bit things about it. I might make a part 2 to this and go in depth on the people of conservatives. I didn't want to get in today because I know it was Sunday chill. I might put this on a I might do a Tuesday stream on it. I don't know. I might and I might not. I'll probably do it next week. Not this week, but next week. I'm going to expound on it because once you get into the conservative thing, I'm going to expound on it. So we'll see what I'm going to do because I want to do more research on the people, why they're conservatives. It's so many, a list. I want to do like a presentation and talk about them and read some of the stuff they say and break it down and things like that. And yeah, this is one of those things like, yeah, Barry Goldwater is most important. I'm glad I mentioned him in this stream because it said he carried only 6 states, 36%. You know, this is a good one. It's plenty of them. I'll do another piece on him in part 2 and start right there in America because everybody else, there's too many conservatives worldwide. Okay, everybody's got different ideologies and things like that. And, you know, yeah, man. He's important to read. The space don't know much about conservatism like that, but you know, he's a lot to read. He's a good one. I ain't saying I'm conservative, but that's the one you would study in GOP history. So, you know what I'm saying? But yeah. What's going on?
Man, what's going on, man?
Good.
Yeah, I was just I had saw that you were streaming, man, and sitting up here watching these kiddos swim and stuff. And I said, man, this is my first time catching you on a stream before. I went back and I was trying to speed through it real quick, but there was a lot that you had that I needed to catch up on. I'll probably rewatch it. But
Yeah.
the overarching theme of what you're covering, if you could just kind of summarize it, what's the overall message that you were trying to?
I was just trying to get into the root cause why people, like, I understand people why they want to be conservative, but they have to understand guys like this guy right here, he should be talked about the most because good or bad, I'm just saying, like, at least learn the proper history why he did what he did. Because if you study his style that wasn't popular back then, and
Hmm.
if you embrace that, you should tell people that he had a hard time against moderate and liberals all the time. And then when I saw one of his old films, and I was looking at how they treated him, whatever, and then over time, Bush kind of adopted some of those tactics. You had Reagan and those guys, and they believe in that stuff. And I think, was it Clinton and others? Yeah, even though they flipped at the end. But I'm just saying, most conservatives you see today, I mean, they still push it, but not as much as they don't even mention this guy at all. And then I mentioned the Phil guy, the talk radio. He was well respected. It's so many to cover because I might do a part two and just expound on why it's important to learn their style of conservatism, because most of the people in the space don't understand it and practice it. You got to really practice it and believe in it, because at the end of the day, you have to come with a I'll say certain solutions, but not just policies, but you got to stand on your beliefs. So that's what I'm trying to say in message wise. But I just want to do a stream on it because I've been pondering this since last year, and I felt like I need to do it because I said, this need to be explained right here. So the history
Yeah,
of it. Yeah.
yeah, I respect that, man. Because whenever with a lot of concepts, particularly ideologies, whether they're political or social or cultural or whatnot,
Hmm.
people sometimes go with the sway of the times instead of
Right.
researching what it really is and then who they are and see if those things really match up with each other.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do here. That's the thing, and I might have to do a part two on this because I like to cover pieces of, but I will do one on, I think, on liberalism and give
Mhm.
someone's take. May do it like I may have to do it like in a setting. I might have to do it a Sunday setting about it and where the root stuff is, because when you talk about philosophies and stuff, it changes over time. So and I know
Right.
people. I know
Yeah.
people have different views on it because there's so many versions. Because when you say liberal and conservative, you got to be specific what y'all talking about, because I
Y-
understand
y-
how
Yeah,
it is.
particularly when it comes to the time period, because um, in some of these arguments, or I'll just
Mhm.
say discussions that take place, people act as if these positions have remained static since their inception, and they definitely have not.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's a weird phenomenon. There's very few people that I have come across that hold um accept their ideologies completely with everything that came out of them, the good and the bad. That's why I mentioned Young Ripper in the chat, because
Yeah.
he has explained the good and the bad of libertarianism, and different sections of where
Yeah.
he would
It
say,
is.
hey, I'm not
Mhm.
going this direction, but these things I do accept, and that's why I take on this name. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way when it comes to. I think I studied what you call utilitarianism in that, and connect the two together and understand where they come from theories or philosophies. But it's important to learn about it though. But conservatism, I get it. I get you're trying to protect and have small government things like that. Now liberalism, that's a whole nother beast. And
Hmm.
communism, and if you put it together, it did stem from a little bits and piece of utilitarianism, or like a hedonistic like mindset, but it
Yeah.
depends on the philosophers that you study. That's what I try to do with the philosophy aspect of the channel, to add a piece to my channel. I said, man, let me talk about this, because a lot of people, they say a lot of random things, but you got to stick to where it comes from, and you got to be precise. There's books on it. I mean, people got different viewpoints. I ain't trying to be dogmatic with it. You don't have to. You just got to learn it and understand it. And are you practicing it? Because some
Yeah.
people have people got different beliefs. That's what I've noticed in the space. Because some people can be nihilistic, some people can be utilitarian, but in politics is a little different, because everybody has different views how they move around in government. So, and I'm trying to understand that. But the reason I'm doing this piece, this is going to be like a political series of ideologies, learn about it, and then I might have to do one on liberalism, break down the terms again, and then I brought the Nolan chart. It's gonna get to a point you really got to discuss these now, because when you get on these topics and debates, when I say on Teapot, I mean y'all got to structure that. Y'all got to
Yeah,
structure that.
it's
Y'all got to structure that. Yeah.
yeah, that's I would say it's not um I, in certain ways I would state that I don't think that the for the masses, I'm going to say about 90% of the debaters um are not ready to have that style of debate. They're not
Right.
they're
Right.
not prepared for that.
Yeah. They're not. I can tell.
Yeah.
Especially that conversation, and it gets tough, and a lot of people are so one-sided. I get why they hold these beliefs, but I stay towards to the middle sometimes, and I try to understand. I'm like, man, but I get it. I get it. They have a
Yeah.
team that they support, so you
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah.
some people, if you really practice, some people don't even believe half of the stuff they're saying. But it's kind of funny. But when you actually do the research of it, you understand that some people change over time with these beliefs, man. It's just something else. But I did this one particular because it's popular. I ain't trying to trigger nobody. I'm just trying to get the understanding, because people got different versions of conservatives. I haven't yet to see them putting conservative ideology up here, but they got different ones. They got the physical, they got the liberal, they got the libertarian. It's so many versions of conservatives I could have gone into, and I don't want to be mild on this one, but the next time I'll go in depth and then put the people who is really who's who, but in politics it's tricky, because you have one
Yeah.
side on both parties, each party, because what you study about the other parties, they're everywhere. You can't say one side is all liberal, then the other side is just conservative too, because people forget you got some in Green Party, you got some in Republican and Democrat, and also
Correct.
Libertarian. But you do have liberals on all sides too, and I'm starting to believe that now. And I think Big Truck mentions this. Yeah, it can be circular, but it depends on what you believe in, right and left. Because today both of them are lost. You just have to. Most people are more moderate now than ever. Yes, they lean towards the left a little bit. I'm not gonna say extremely right. I mean, yeah, you have extremely right, but some people, they're just more moderate. You know what I'm saying? That's why they don't want to have that conversation, because a lot of moderates and centrists, they're like, I'm gonna stay right here.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can really tell when things get I would say significantly polarized,
Hmm.
because people try to um speak to the modern or the moderates and the centrist as if, no, you have to do this or do that, and it's like, no, no, you don't. No, you don't. But um yeah, it's an interesting conversation. I didn't know that you did these. I'll probably need to go back in your catalog and check some stuff
Yeah,
out.
I
I'm
mean, I
interested
did
in.
some philosophies. I made some playlists. I mean, stuff I talk about, and then I reference it in streams. And I think I had Mike V on here, a few people on here, and other people had opposing views. And I did several streams. I just started in April, this type of content, because I used to do pre-records myself. And I remember back then politics wasn't talk like this, like that, until the internet. And it just went wild. So, you have several playlists, you know.
Yeah, have you done anything uh, on progressivism?
I haven't, but I eventually will because it's going to tie into all of this and the philosophies. I did nihilism and I did utilitarianism because I heard this from BGS, and then I got to expound on all the stuff. And I'm going to do libertarianism again because I think I got pieces of them again. I'm trying to structure it right to see who's who, and you can have these discussions and say, like I've noticed in the chat room, and they tell me don't discuss it. I said, no, let me discuss it. I should have discussed all this last year because I had these thoughts in my head. I said, let me do the research on them. You know, I know there's books out there,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah, when people talk these things, yeah, you got to actually do the research so show and proof. You know, it's good to know. Now, I know people don't discuss this guy right here. Yeah, he was well known in the '60s, but you know, but the thing does go further back. But yeah, he was just that type of style of conservatism, but there's many levels to it. It ain't just him starting it, you know, where he learned that from. You know, I'm curious. And that's what you got to be with these ideologies of the political science, or should we say philosophies, whatever. Then you got your esoteric philosophies, of course, and people's stances. Eventually, I'm going to do a presentation on them, you know, of those ideologies, and then you'll see the faces and things like that. I'll eventually do. Now, progressivism, yeah, that's going to be tricky, but I'm going to get into it. I'm going to say, you know what, this is what it is, and some people may disagree, whatever. That's cool, and
yeah.
I'll stand on it, and I'll say, hey, that's what it is right here. But I'll look at both sides of it, the good and the bad. That has it help. Shit.
Yeah, I would be interested in that. I know that I'm looking into to myself, uh, because I'm looking into the deeper into the progressive thought, also that of pragmatism. Uh, but
Yeah, yeah.
but from different things that I've seen so far, that goes into stuff that people don't really talk about. Um, I found this little nugget of information with around when the New Deal came into play,
Hmm.
and during that time, you also had the Harlem Renaissance going on,
Hmm.
and um, I find it interesting that Langston Hughes wrote many uh, poems and a few shorts on how the New Deal affected Black people, and I mean, it's not good. And it was just interesting to me that I was like, wow, that's it. It was just interesting to me that at that time, from a literary historical perspective, to have such a juggernaut such as Langston Hughes having a negative view of it. So
Yeah, yeah. The Harlem Renaissance is something else. You looked up something that's deep, like Langston Hughes, and everybody's got different views. And I think like a James Baldwin, he was like an opposed view of Malcolm. They had those debates. I used to watch those a lot.
yeah,
And Malcolm, yes, he was somewhat. I wouldn't say he was conservative. Now his dad's people, I think me and Mike discussed this on a stream that I was on here on this channel, like 9 hours. It was a Friday, special Fridays. We mentioned Marcus Garvey being a conservative, and that's the only conservative you can say that Garveyite movement, because he was trying to send them to Africa and things like that. But Malcolm was somewhat progressive at the end. Now he did grow up in a conservative lifestyle growing up as a child, even though the Klan killed his people, and yes, he retaliated and all that stuff, but they never mentioned his progressive movements, what he's studying in Islam and how he got away from it and learned his viewpoints. And we talked about that. But I'll do some research on that in the structure in the future. I'll probably do it this year, somewhere around November. I'll break it down. I just have to structure the pieces for it, but I'm gonna put it all together. So I'm learning why people learn this stuff in these spaces. But it makes sense that we should look into this guy for an example as a start, and then we can look at the other side of liberalism, and then same with progressive. You know, I'm just trying to be fair, you know,
yeah,
because I
yeah,
try to understand people where they're coming from, because you got to be careful what you say and stuff like that. You just got to put it in context. You know, I like to read stuff, you know, instead of just yelling and screaming, oh, you're this and that. No, you got to put that thing in context in those debates. Like you said, most people ain't built for those conversation. So that's why it
Right.
needs to be structured. It needs to be very structured. So, but go ahead, Mike. You want to say anything? Because I done said enough on conservatism, because I might make a part 2 to this. This is going to be good because I'm trying to get in depth with it. So,
peace to the panel, man. Peace to the chat, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm actually just now coming back in because I was switching devices, but I see you got Barry Goldwater on the screen, and I think that he's a starting point for where we are right now. So I think you've covered that already, but I'm just re-emphasizing that.
Yeah, I have to on this channel because I want people to know that that's important. You can't gloss over. It's a lot of conservatives I would love to cover in other time periods, but this one right here, that style, I get it, and I understand why they believe that, and that's just the norm, because it's just want the young people to know. Now, he did exist. What you would say, if you come close to it, and there's other research to back it up. Now, if you want to go with the liberalism route, I have to name some names because I don't have to write some down, because I'm doing a series on each, and you can look at what the information was. If you can study for yourself, there's other books. If you want to counter my arguments, that's fine. We can have a nice little debate about it. But I'm just saying, you just got to know what these guys think. And I mentioned the radio host, for example. He was well respected in politics as a conservative, Phil Valentine from North Carolina, but his father was Tim Valentine Jr., House Representative Democrat, and he died in 2015. I forget what he passed away of. Another one died with complications. That's his son, Phil. He was anti-COVID, and I get it, because in the South they're more patriotic with their conservatism. But but I told SKC I have yet to see yeah, that too. I never seen a conservative ideology there. I've seen so many other conservative ideologies and different versions of it. I've yet to see one on the board. I don't know if that's going to be a future thing, because I know people studying things online. They put ideologies every day on the internet, so that's like the norm. So you gotta stand on these things. So
Yeah, and what's interesting is that Goldwater, I think Goldwater's son, was not a Trump supporter. So he's in a different class of conservative.
Yeah.
And so, just kind of reemphasizing what you may have covered before, that Goldwater went against Nixon, and that's how he lost. I think he got like 20% of the vote, but he helped shape the movement for what it is today, because he was not a big advocate of civil rights being legislated at the Fed level. He was more of a states' rights type of guy, and that's kind of why he lost, because the momentum was not on his side, which is what Lee Atwater was talking about. You can't just come out saying nigger, nigger, nigger. You got to codify your racism and through policy, and that's how they, kind of moved the movement into a what they called a new right under Reagan. And so you got Nixon at the end of his tenure pushing for marijuana at the highest class schedule, and penalizing the black community with his policies. And so that's kind of where the movement began, under Goldwater, then into Nixon, and then from Nixon into Reagan. The last liberal president that we ever had was Jimmy Carter. You haven't had a liberal president since then. Like somebody else said in the chat, Clinton was a Goldwater acolyte. This is true.
Yeah, Hillary. Yeah, true. I agree with that.
Hillary and Bill. And
Bill.
so
that's right.
Their policies of the 90s were basically conservative policies, and so was Joe Biden. Joe Biden is basically a blue dog Democrat, which is basically a conservative in the Democratic Party. And so a lot of people will say, oh, well, the libs, the left did this and the left did that. But in reality, those people were really conservative in their stature. And so they were not progressive. They were the actual conservatives within the Democratic Party. And that's how they were able to pull power away from the Republican Party of the 90s and the early 2000s. They were able to shift the momentum from the Reagan and Bush era to the Clinton era.
Mm-hmm.
If I could pose a question before I head out, I gotta get these ones in a little bit. But yeah, Mike, like I've asked you before,
Mm-hmm.
like say with progressivism, are there what are the weaknesses and threats of that position if they exist?
Let me put some volume on here. Say that one more time.
What are the weaknesses, the threats, the dangers of that position?
So,
like what would be going too far with progressivism?
So going too far would be neo-progressivism. So the men can have babies and stuff. That's that neo-progressivism. It's not. That's kind of a fringe element of what the progressives turn out to be. They're too far and they're too extreme, and they don't really. There's no basis for them, and so they sit on the fringe element. But on a global standard, like if you follow Socialist Workers' Party out in Britain or Europe, DM25 out in Europe, those progressive movements, they actually talk about that fringe element being a thorn in the side of progressivism. And so they kind of call it out and they root it out, but it's hard to it's a fine balance that they try to find in like in America, we have like our extreme left would be somebody like AOC, right? AOC is considered to be extreme left, even though if you go to like Europe, she would be normal. She will be extremely normal for what she's proposing, because they already have all of that. That stuff is kind of settled in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s.
So what would be like if you were sending me to a source? Like what would be a source that I could find from the progressive way of thought that would say, okay, here is progressivism going too far, and here are the checks and balances that we have in place in order to prevent that? Like where would I go to?
I would probably say Convo Couch on YouTube. They're probably pretty good. Pasta Head, whatever it is.
No. I'm talking about ones that are actually in the ones who are policy makers.
Oh, policy making wise, they don't. Things about the thing about progressives is that they don't really attack each other, but they do talk about things that do go too far. And so, I think here in America, I don't really know too many people who say that you're going too far. Maybe somebody like Nina Turner would probably be the loudest, most vocal voice in terms of what's going too far and what's not enough. You'll probably put. Let me see, male wise, I would probably say Chris Hedges is probably another one. He's in the Green Party. He is one that actually calls out the progressive left, and he's progressive himself. He says things that go too far. He has a channel on YouTube on RT, so he's pretty constant in his weekly.
And you said Chris Hedges?
Yeah, Chris Hedges.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll definitely jot that down.
Yep. Another one would be what's his name? Brian Becker. He's another one who's a progressive, but calls out a lot of the effery that goes on within the progressive movement as well. Very little effery actually goes on in the progressive movement. I know some people would like to put all of progressive and liberal in one bucket, and it's really not the same. You can look at the Democratic Party today. You can see how many fractionalizations that's within the party itself. You have the AOC wing, who
far left, far left,
who represents that progressive left, and then you have you would have the Jim Clyburns who represent the establishment, the more moderate of the party.
Yeah.
Right, and then you have that center center left, like Joe Biden or a younger version of Joe Biden, during the Obama administration, those type of people. So what I'm saying here is that you have about 4 to 5 different elements within the left that really don't agree with each other at all. I mean, openly they don't agree with each other. Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema, a lot of other ones. Forget the other woman's name.
I would say Tulsi Gabbard. It's the
she got
list goes
forced
on
out.
and on.
She got forced out of the party. She's a center left.
She's center left. She's more of a center left. I don't want her to call her libertarian. Like she's hard on the far lefts. Like AOC's more extreme. She's more like damn, what's those people in South America? She's got their mindset. The ones like the Chavez type, She has their ideology, and others in Europe too.
Yeah,
that's what her beliefs.
She's a different type of conservative though. Within the party, because she's military, right?
Yeah.
So her conservatism comes out of the military and not so much from the politic.
That's why I've noticed. Yeah,
that's what I found kind of. I don't know. I would say almost frightening, because when you have someone like a Tulsi Gabbard, who, like you always say, she's left center, and for her to be kind of like X'd from the party, I was like, wow, that's significant.
Well, keep in mind, it wasn't the progressives that pushed her out; it was the establishment, right? The Clinton sector of the party forced her out. They did not want her at the final of the primaries. They didn't want her being a part of that debate, because somebody like her would shake up the whole entire party, and that's not what they want.
Right. But that's why I stated it was, to me, it seemed like that was scary, because you're basically stating we want more polarization. We rather have AOC than a Tulsi Gabbard. That's shocking.
Well, not so much of AOC, but they want more.
Well, just say the squad then. The squad is acceptable, but Tulsi Gabbard isn't.
Well, because the squad has a base. Tulsi Gabbard doesn't have a base. You could look at the numbers. She doesn't have a base like that. Like if you look at DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, which is AOC's party, they have 100,000. If I remember correctly, well over 500,000 members right now, and they have people in office. Like they've run for office the last couple of years and have gotten seats. Tulsi is kind of on the island of her own, and so it wasn't the accepting of the AOCs or the squad. It was the deep establishment of the Democratic Party says no to Tulsi Gabbard, because Tulsi Gabbard is a thorn in the side of the military-industrial complex, the deep state of the party itself. She's more of a problem than AOC is, and so
that's what I found shocking.
Yeah. Well, somebody, some people say she's a grifter, right? She kind of floats on the right and uses the left.
But that's a term that's used for just about everybody. I mean, it's almost like a statement now, to where if anybody says something that could be taken, that could be taken in a bad way. At any point in time, you can call just about any person in politics a grifter.
Well, they would say she's a grifter because she doesn't toe the party line. She goes against the party line. That's where she becomes a problem, right? And so, plus she's active serving duty, so she has a lot more. She has a lot more to gain than she does have to lose, whereas everybody else has a lot more to lose than they have to gain having her around. And so,
but didn't Nina Turner do the same thing? At some point, she didn't toe the line. She spoke out against her own people and stated, "No, this isn't enough. You got to do this, and this, and the other." Well,
right. She put pressure on the establishment to do something more on behalf of the party, on behalf of the constituents of the party, and she said some things about Biden and Clinton that the party did not you know, it didn't sit well with the party, and so they came in and supported Chantel Brown, and plus the Republicans supported Chantel Brown as well, and so they drowned her out financially and publicity wise. If you really look at the numbers, she only lost by 4 points. You're talking about maybe 400 votes, if that. And I think the voter restrictions that happened in Ohio over the last 9 months, if you really look at the bills and things that were being passed, I think a lot of Nina's base got stymied and stifled by the fact that they couldn't come out and vote. So we don't know where Nina Turner is going to really stand. We won't know for the next 2 weeks because she's going to make a major announcement. Maybe she might run for a different position. Maybe Chantel Brown might get recalled because she has pending litigation or under investigation right now for what do you call it? Not campaign funds. Utilizing public funds for her boyfriend,
right.
Street guy himself. So there's a lot of moving pieces that happens on the left that, kind of gets misconstrued as one supports the other. They don't really support it. The progressives have a lot more say in the party now than what they did 5 and 10 years ago.
Right.
AOC has really put a lot of pressure on Biden and the establishment because they have a lot of power now because they have more seats in office now. That's why they call it the squad, because they've established that base for themselves and they carved out a place within the party, which hasn't been done probably in the last 60 plus years. That hasn't been done. So
just a question to you, like say individuals from that particular leaning who a lot of people would view as a stroke or two from outright radicalism. Do you see that as a danger in any sort? It's like, this needs to have its checks, its limits. I know that I'm not saying that, we have to keep watching them all the time, but yeah, this could go this could snowball and create a lot of damage to everybody.
So in a way, there is some financially, there would be some checks and balances that need to be put in place because a lot of their ideas do come at a high cost. But we know now, based on what they spent in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, and Pakistan, they spent $6 trillion, if not $20 trillion over the last 20 to 21 years. And so the money to actually spend to fund their initiatives like the Green New Deal could actually be done. The only problem is the people in the party want to benefit from it. Everybody wants to benefit on both sides, right and left. And so if they don't see themselves benefiting from it, that's where they start to push back. And I think when you say go too far, that part may go to those people, may seem like it's going too far because now it's encroaching on it. Like if you want to throw up, the Green New Deal talks about wind energy, right? Renewable energies. Well, if you're in a flyover state, that may not work out for you because you may not be able to throw up a lot of wind turbines and things like that. But if you're on the East Coast and you're New York, New Jersey, any one of those Atlantic border states, you can throw up as many wind turbines as you want to, and it doesn't have an impact. It benefits you, and it benefits your party, and it benefits you in office. But what happens when you go to Iowa? What happens when you go to North Dakota and these places? They don't have the ability to throw up wind turbines and really benefit from renewable energy. So they may not want to be on board. So they may see that as going too far. And so they may want to hold on to fossil fuels just a little bit longer. But their willingness to hold on to fossil fuels actually slows the country down from moving and progressing ahead in the way that China is progressing ahead when they can throw up, solar farms and
solar energy.
The wind
farms.
turbines and things like that. They can do all of these radical things in China because they don't have the same restriction. There's only one party there.
Yeah. It's like in Dubai, even though they're controlled, obviously because they had the wind farms and energies, and countries are like that, but the politics is different around the world. Ours is more, I don't sound like BGS, they said a little liberal in a way, but when I did this topic, I had to break down the actual conservatism, and I had to mention Barry Goldwater and all the legends. Eventually I'm gonna do a part 2 and go in depth on those beliefs and put faces on people and who's who, and that's when you get to the meat of it, because Barry, his is it's not really unique, it's really classic, but his is more right-wingish type way. But in his day, it wasn't respected because it was a lot of moderates. I didn't realize it was a lot of moderate Republicans back then, because they didn't teach me that in school. They taught me like a small portion,
well,
that was it.
They were moderate because they were trying to hold on to something, right?
Yeah,
but you couldn't. The civil rights movement has so much momentum, and you combine that with the Vietnam War. You combine that with the anti-war movement. You combine that with what was happening in Europe at the time when they were trying to rebuild and restructure, and the communist movements, the leftist movements in Latin America and coming out of Africa. There was a lot of pressure on the United States to make some changes that they weren't prepared to do, and a lot of people had to eat their own dog food when LBJ came out and said, told Congress and the Senate, you're going to pass this right now, which is talking about the Civil Rights Bill and the Voting Rights Act. You're going to pass this, and you're going to do it now because we have to do this in order to move the base forward. Like they had to do it because the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party was the ones who put pressure on them in the first place. Fannie Lou Hamer on to LBJ and said, listen, if you guys don't do that, if you don't allow us to have a presence at the DNC, the National Convention, we're going to walk out and we're going to stage a protest and we're going to turn some ish on top of his head. And that was the trajectory shift, and that was the shifting of the parties. The Republican Party today is now the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party of then became the Republican Party overnight. That was the shift. And a lot of people were saying, like, well, they're moderate, but in reality, they were trying to hide their racism, kind of like Kennedy. Yeah,
so true.
I'll tell you outright, I haven't I haven't subscribed to the party switch thing yet, but it's an interesting topic, but a lot of the arguments to and fro, I think, cancel each other out, and I'll just leave that alone. So Abdul, I want to ask you a question too before I get up.
Okay, go ahead. Peace out, man.
From your perspective, do you think that there is? I know we. Okay, what would you define as too far right, and what would you define as too far left?
Well, too far right for me would be like a fascistic, like corporate, more extreme. It's kind of like if you lose your conservative values, for example, like I don't want to say like a Hitler type. It can be any dictator, but I'm just saying that's extreme right there. And far left will be like not like a AOC, more like an anarchist type, kind of like extreme. It's just like I mentioned before on this channel. I talk about the two ideologies that stem from that. It's hedonistic. It's like the utilitarian concept and the nihilistic concept. Because sometimes when you have groups, they tend to hold on beliefs, and 9 out of 10, the middle group just forced to pick a side when things turn into chaos like that. But usually in history, it shows far right people that are so extreme. They're backed by corporations. They perpetuate, people from the far left. Sometimes they kind of like they work together, but 9 out of 10, the right always usually wants to be the aggressor. I think I told this to Kuda, the left seems aggressive, but they're not aggressive as you think. It's usually the ones that's speaking loud and protest. But today you don't see it. You see it, but you don't see it, because that's why the media always show the left getting beat up and things like that. And I know the left's trying to protest. I'm not a protesting guy. I look at it from an angle why they think like that, because in the right, I get it. Some people have rights. You know, America is one of those countries you can say what you want, and everybody's got different beliefs. It's just everybody's not going to agree that the far right is a real problem. But in corporate sense, they have to have that. But they hide behind these ideologies like liberalism and conservatism. 9 out of 10 depends on who they vote for and things like that. But to me, that's more extreme on two extremes, and it can get like that. But 9 to 10, most people ain't really, like you said, like the audience, they ain't ready for that type of conversation, because if you really want to strip it down to fragments like that, you really got to get in the person's mind of why he thinks like that, because the ideology it's like I would say like brainwashing, but you know why you're brainwashed. You know, you can't fix somebody overnight. That takes time, and I've seen that firsthand. Yeah.
So, sir, you said like on the right side of things, the corporations getting behind like this outright racist and stuff like that. I get that. But one thing that weirds me out. The flip side of that, where you have corporations that get behind the left.
Yeah.
And then there comes these things such as, censorship. Oh, you said this, you can't bank with us no more.
Right.
No, I mean, I just I don't see how. I understand the whole thing about racism. I get that.
Yeah, I get that too. I'm not saying it don't
to
exist
the point
either,
of where people are saying, nah, we can just, because you had this viewpoint or because you said this, you can no longer use our service.
Well, keep in mind the neocons put that in under the Patriot Act. They can seize your bank accounts no matter where you are in the world. They started that in 2002, 2001.
Yes, but but over what though, Mike?
Over anything. They don't have to have a reason. That's the whole purpose of the Patriot Act. They can seize any American's bank account, anybody's domain name, anybody's cryptocurrencies. If you're a U.S. citizen, you are under the gun, according to them.
Right. So, give me like some normal, not like I would say, as people would say, the conspiracy theory type of thing, but the normal everyday run of the mill type person who has been affected by that.
By what?
By this Patriot Act coming in and just taking, your stuff and
look
blah,
at
blah.
What's her name from Marcy Harshmi last year or before the pandemic. They didn't just arrest her; they arrested her whole family and detained them for 2 weeks, if not longer. And in fact, they made her strip down from her garb.
And what was this? And what was this for?
Just because they could. Really, is really Israel that put a lot of pressure on the U.S. to do that. But that's exactly what they did. And this is a nonviolent woman. This is not somebody who is a BLM supporter. She is nonviolent from New Orleans. Happened to come back into the United States. As soon as she touched down in the airport, they snatched her up. They snatched her family up, even the kids, and arrested them. That doesn't really get talked about in the mainstream, but that's exactly what they did. And they kept her for 16 days before they let her go.
And you say, what was her name again?
Marcy Harshmi. She's not on, you can't find her on YouTube. They scrubbed all of her content. All of her content is gone. You won't find her on social media. Unless somebody reposts it themselves, but her stuff is gone. They haven't posted her stuff since they arrested her. They let her go and let her leave the country. But her kids, they've been harassing them probably the last 2-3 years, if not from what I've heard. Under what's his name, Dr. Randy Short. I think he talked about that on Arts. That how long they've been harassing her. They said that goes all the way back to 2008, 2009. And so,
okay.
I'm just saying she is one person, but there are many. Like brother Reverend Pickney, he's been in jail for I don't know how long. He started off on YouTube, and they snatched him up. And he was a whistleblower. He was the one blowing the whistle about what was going on in the prisons and how Aramark was feeding a lot of your prison inmates with food with maggots in it, and how much money Verizon and some of these other private institutions were making off of prisoners making calls out of prison, the whole industrial complex behind the prison, the private prison movement and stuff like that. That he was one of the biggest whistleblowers on it. You don't see him on YouTube anymore. In fact, he hasn't been on YouTube since the Obama era. They made him disappear.
Okay, so I'm curious then, because you spiked my curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
What left politicians have talked about these things?
I don't know if anybody's talked about it, but what I do know is that your anti-establishment movement on the ground, they've been pretty much defanged for all intents and purposes. If you're a politician, you just don't talk about that. I think Dr. Cynthia McKinney has talked about this on YouTube many times before. When you're in office, two things you don't do. You don't question Israel, and you don't question the establishment. If you question either one of those or even both of those, your career is over. And that's why she's not in office.
Yeah.
That's why Tulsi is not in office anymore.
Actually, it's a combination of three. Don't talk about any of them. Even the Catholicism too, in business and religion. Don't talk about them. Israel, a combination of anything, because they'll ruin your reputation. That's all I'm gonna say on that.
They'll destroy your life. They'll kill you.
Yeah,
what's the brother out there who got his car droned? His Mercedes. And
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Right now, I mean, some people will say, "Oh, well, he ran into a tree." I don't know. No. Mercedes came from Germany, stopped in Alabama. Oh, it stopped in Georgia, and then they went to go review the wreckage in LA, and they said, "Our cars don't do that. We want to see the black box." FBI jumped in and said, "Nah, we got that black box," but it wasn't a federal investigation. It was just a jurisdiction investigation.
I don't want to mention the other group, the CIA. I don't want to mention them on here because they had something to do with that. Government like that. I'm not surprised. I'm not going to say, you can't say that publicly because that's like anti-American, because that's another word. The best way to avoid that is say allegedly. Like, I think Star used to say this all the time in radio. He said, if you know something, don't act like you know it. Just say allege and just move about your day. That's how you have to move with them. Especially in these spaces, you got to be careful, because when you're debating those people, you got to be fair. It's kind of like you can't be aggressive. I've learned this in the workplace, and they told me, hey, just if you talk to them, just talk to them, but don't get too aggressive and passionate. You got to stay calm. You have to stay calm with them, especially if they're debating you on certain issues, or even with race. And that's why I've learned too. I had to move different, and that's why I had to be. And when I came back to these spaces, I tried to tell them, no, you can't say that in public setting. Now you can say it in a barbershop, things like that, and get away with it. I used to do that when I was younger. And I tell people all the time, Black folks kept it to themselves. Now, when technology improves and gear and stuff and cameras, you can't really say much anything. That's why everything is censorship outside of YouTube. You can't even say that on Twitter, Instagram, or any of them. They're really watching. You just got to be careful.
Right. I just want to make sure I finish this point, because
go ahead.
SKC doesn't walk away with half the story. This Mercedes SLK, they found an engine 50 yards away from the car itself. An engine weighs 400 pounds.
I remember reading the ins and outs of that story, and it wasn't somebody ran into a tree. That's obvious, but it makes me, as a person that just wants a bit more objectiveness. It's odd for me for when people get into these debates of left, right, and don't see the obvious, that if there is allegedly an establishment, don't you think that they could use various ideologies and hot topics such as racism as a useful tool?
Yes, to that point, yes. But understand that you can't have race without having, you don't have racism without having race. And so race is a reality that is in American culture because it's fabricated, it's interwoven into the fabric of it.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I just think that there are facets of racism in the past, how it affects people today. I think it's more of a mental exercise, but I think people within certain um with certain powers use the topic as a flare point for people to continue to have pointless arguments and disputes.
Yeah, that's true too. But we have to accept that racism isn't an individual thing. It's, you know, it's structured. It's institutional.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why you have critical race theory in the first place, is to de-emphasize the people, the human element, and focus on these structural elements of it and how it impacts Black people in particular, well, in indigenous people too in this country.
Yeah. I mean, y'all both make some good points. I'm just saying, like, for this topic, this is going to be like a part two. I'm going to put some faces on those ideologies of conservatism I've read, but his style. I mean, historically, they didn't teach me about him. I heard of the name. Don't get me wrong. Like, they didn't go in. Yeah, they didn't go in depth on him, and I'll tell you why. They kept it so hidden in the South because they don't. It's a reputation thing. Because I know he's from Arizona and everything else, especially my state. They never talk about him because, yeah, he has a Jewish heritage background, but see, they don't expose the ones that's corrupt. Like the Nazis and all that. Now, if you go in depth on that. The people over there trying to say don't talk about that. That's their little, little secret. Everybody's got them, but that's why I don't debate people like that lively, like that in person in the barbershop, like I used to when I was younger, when I was getting my hair cut. And like we had these discussions, kind of like these spaces. The trick thing with that is, even if you're dealing with them in the barbershop with Black people, I've seen some that cut hair too. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to them to talk about it because it's personal. Then it goes rehashing, slavery and all that. We get it, then they'll say that you did this. And yeah, I mentioned that on the channel too, but it's no need. I got to the point, like, let's try to be fair about it, because a lot of times when people take things and then they abuse it, because conservatism to me has already been tainted. It ain't what it used to be, because it's like a dog whistle. It's like the liberal thing. I got to do a piece on that too. Not all of it's bad. Some of it can be good in certain situations, but this country is still liberal. I had to accept that, and I had a real research about it. I said, well, damn, why are our policies a little liberal? And it makes sense because of America. And if you go outside of that, and countries go back to them old ways of, conservative. And I know why people's upset. Yeah, we got laws, and yeah, we have our racism, we have our class.
Well, look at your Constitution.
Constitution, all that.
Well, think about the Constitution. Your First Amendment is a liberal
amendment.
Your ability to speak out against the government, you can't do that in other countries. Even the British don't have that, right?
Yeah, they don't have that.
That's why I'm like, we have to put emphasis behind what a liberal actually is versus what a conservative actually is. Saudi Arabia, that's a conservative state, right?
Right. Absolutely.
The Taliban, they're very conservative. So
there you go.
When you say things like that, it's like, well, there's different sides of conservatism. No, not really. In Russia, you can't speak out against the government.
No, you can't. No, you
can't. In Germany, though, you can speak out. You can protest and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
I would say Germany, and I don't want to say France. I know you can't, but in certain parts of France years ago, when they had that revolution, you can, because it's still liberal. Because now they are anti. I know they anti-Italy sometimes in other countries, because France is weird. They have a unique way. They don't really care about the Haitians like that, And then I had this discussion with Triple Black and DeAndre, because they're part Haitian, and it's kind of weird how you look at it, especially in Canada, because Canada ain't like the U.S. I mean, the U.S. is unique. It's all the way, I would say, modern liberal now, because back in the day, if you study levels of it, but the conservatism those countries practice is classic. It's normal. It's not like any other conservatism. It's straightforward. It's kind of like, I don't want to say medieval, but if you study ancient history, that's how it is. And now America's unique. It goes back to the days of Rome when it was liberal. I won't say Egyptian history has some of that too. A lot of people try to say it didn't. Yes, it did. If you go to the Ptolemy period, the Middle Kingdom with they call them Akhenaten, but Agnaten or Aten, that's his name. But you know, the sun god I told you about, it was based off all that. It's just a lot of times people don't really study America properly. So yeah, it's okay to study liberalism in its right form, not just saying, "Oh, it's far left." Most liberals don't care for far left. Not
No, they
way
don't.
like they don't, and I've
No.
noticed that.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, there's nothing like the United States anywhere else. I mean, it's an experiment for all intents and purposes. It's a social experiment. It's still ongoing, right? The United States is only 248, 49 years old. It's not like it's this 1,000, 2,000 year.
No, it ain't reached that big.
It may not, based on how things are going right now. It may not reach 300 years because
the only reason, if it makes 1,000, it has to go through so many fucking wars, like the Roman Empire, like these other cultures. You cannot have that type of, especially the economy too. You're right, and it will not make 300 years old. Now, if it did, it will take a third of our race and their race together and say, "Look here, we're Americans, and the people that's coming in here and reformed." That takes years. You know how many people that can invade and change a country? Like other cultures did this before. America is unique, and it's hard to change a liberal system. You know what I mean? To something. How are you going to change something that's great? You know what I'm saying? And that's why I mentioned the utilitarian factor that created all this stuff. Nobody wants to be total utilitarian. I tell this all the time. Now, you have rule in military, you have the act and certain laws and things like that theory, but you do not have the total, because why? You got to get rid of that minority group that runs the planet, like the banks and those people over there. It's going to be very frustrating. You know what happens if they start dying, and they affects them too. It's not like, us. You can't do that because the ecosystem will allow it. That's why America's so unique. Yeah, we got all the guns, we got all the food and everything else, and yeah, we make trades with China with the factories and things like that. They don't want to see this country gone, you know what I mean? Because everybody looks at it as a jewel, and I get it. And I'm like, okay, so if we can't make it past 1,000, at least I'll say like 200 some years, but not no 300. Now, if it's possible with tech, I do see that, like a tech empire, but outside of that, what you got to show for if you make it that long?
Think about the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union only lasted for how long? Since 1921 till 1991.
Yeah, that's decades. That's a long time.
Well, 70 plus years, right? So as an experiment, the Soviet Union did not reach its potential. And it crashed and burned. I mean, there was a few bad mistakes that were made, some things that were outside of their control, but from a high level, it did not survive that long. The United States at 249 years old, it may not reach 300. You may see, just like the Confederates did in the South, cut themselves off politically from the rest of the country. And you can look at the North and the South right now. Look how advanced New York is versus, let's say, Georgia.
Yeah,
I agree. You can see the differences in the economies, the weight of it. Wall Street completely outweighs any conservative, center within the South. From South Carolina all the way down to Mississippi. They don't have the ability to survive on their own. The only thing that they have really going for themselves is the ports. They have access to water, right? The blue water. And so in places like Massachusetts, that's a tech empire for all intents and purposes. They can survive on their own. New York can survive on its own. In fact, it's the breadbasket of American financial power. A lot of your financial power is centered around liberal areas, what's considered to be liberal: New York, California, Massachusetts, DC. Those sort of areas are all the centers of power that make these decisions. Whereas in the South, they don't really have anything comparable to it.
The only thing in the South, I hate to say it, is Atlanta, because you got a lot of people where you come from come down here because of those powers, and that's the only state that holds those reservoirs, like what you call it, Lake Lanier, for example. That water is man-made, and people don't realize we control the water resource down here. They don't tell you that on the news because Georgia is very stubborn. Tennessee is kind of like in between. When it comes to politics and religion and money and finance, that's it. And Kentucky is probably third. The rest of the South is just trash. I want to tell you that. And Texas got a law outlawing buying prostitutes, and that's why I heard. I don't know if that's gonna stand, but that's just what it is. But you know, like those states I just mentioned, they deal with tech now. But you're right. The key states that you mentioned, California and all the Northeast and certain West Coast, they hold the power of this country, and especially the gambling. How can you have all that, and then when it goes to sports, like you said, the Soviet Union, that concept can die any day now. You know what I'm saying? It's hanging on a thread because the Federal Reserve cannot maintain that. You can't send money to the Swiss bank people in Switzerland and hidden banks in Rome, whatever. You can't do that because America's not built like that. The way it was built, you had grants, you had everything, and the IRS did not exist. That was a man-made concept that was created to, you know, for protection of certain people and the wealth class. See, black men don't have like these groups. I hate to say like what the Palestinians have, like the small army. They don't have that. They don't have like you know, pushback. You know, yeah, we may have Nation of Islam, but that ain't big enough. I'm talking about actual counter group. We don't have no group of military. They always talk about this years ago. I said, well, we don't have tanks and structure. We don't have that. And here's the problem. We love the damn military too much. We love the Navy branch. We love the Marine branch. And we also, and I hate to say it's private military companies. They're big. That's the industrial complex right there. The private militaries, they make a lot of money. You cannot go against them and those branches because you know why? They can track you and kill you anytime. Because how can you form a rebel group? You just can't, because a domestic terrorist can be anybody. See, the street gangs is just a small domestic group. They in your military. You know, they train them. And the general discussed this last night. And I said, yeah, that's so true. It's just, you just got to be careful where you travel because they know you, man, because they know your reputation, because America is like respectable. I know they disliked by the travelers, but still, you know, you just got to be careful, man. Like, I always agree with you on this one because you cannot have a system like that a long time because it's eventually gonna fall. BJ is correct on this one. Yeah, it can fall any day now. It's just the problem is people ain't gonna let it. They're too desperate. You know, they worry about OnlyFans a lot. And that's just a small problem. That's not a big issue. There's more than life than that. I'm just saying, like, anything can fall, but it's a combination of things, like what happened, how you treat the people, the poor, the homelessness. Atlanta's got a huge homeless problem since the past, I'll say 10 to 12 years, because that's a 2% problem in Atlanta, in the city. Everybody's moving outside the city to have a better life at home. Now they do go to work in the city. It's kind of like what you see in the Northeast. You know, it's a pattern. And the only thing is saving Georgia is tech and the housing and real estate. That's it. It ain't going down like most southern states. Most southern states, they're just stuck in their old ways. The only ones I see changing is I already said Georgia and Texas, but Tennessee may change in the near future if they get rid of the old ways of racism, because it's dying off as you can see.
Well, Atlanta has the Fed.
Yeah.
Right. So anytime you see the Fed at the center of the city, then you know that there's some viable economic power there. Plus your universities, your HBCUs and your Georgia.
Right. Correct.
Those are major powerhouses within the influence of the city and the state itself. So they can determine policy, public policy and stuff like that. I'm not saying that Georgia is somehow backwards in comparison to New York. I'm saying that the power for New York is in Wall Street.
Yeah, and correct.
So
correct.
A lot of those decisions, those major key decisions about where the country is going to go and not where the state is going to go, is decided there, as opposed to whereas in Georgia, you know, the center of power is in Atlanta, in that airport. The
airport is the power. That's so true. I was about to say that. Yeah, that and the colleges. I would say Georgia Tech. Yep. Now UGA, that's different. But Georgia Tech, you're absolutely correct. And I think No, I don't mess with the Bulldogs. I'm not originally from Georgia. I don't really care for them like that. Now, I do mess with we got playing colleges. I live out in Kennesaw now. That's the Owls and things like that. And then you got a research Emory, another one, and then you got the actual people that's from Israel that runs that university. It's private, good school too.
Yep.
They do the research. They do say this. Atlanta's the heart of where they're financial, where they what you call they tuition grads and all that. Yeah, that's where they all go to get they little researches done, even with the vaccines and things like that, because that's the only thing we have here, and those schools go to that. That's plenty colleges go here, and they tell you it's the city of Atlanta. Oh, we got the AJC, Atlanta Journal Constitution. They talk about things like that. But that's the jewel of it.
Well, think about your. No, I was
ahead.
just going to say, think about your sports franchises at the Atlanta Hawks, the Atlanta Falcons.
Yes, Braves.
Yeah, the Atlanta Braves. Those sports franchises, although they seem benign, they have a lot of influence too as to what gets built stadium-wise, what kind of people attend those games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was in Atlanta a couple years ago, but I know things have changed since then, but
it's changed. It's still a growing city. They're trying to be like Austin. They follow in the ways of Texas and people from LA and New York because it's a model. You have a lot of people that's coming from where you come from. It's some Boston people. They're changing the city because what they're saying. What's her name? Stacey Abrams. They're changing this conservative doctrine. A lot of conservatives don't live in Atlanta, as you can tell, because a lot of them can't deal with the housing and the things like that. They want to go overseas and try to say, oh, let me go over here and be anti-American. Then you got some to say, I'm just leaving just for the hell of it. No, Georgia's still growing. You got people coming here all the time. I never understood when I worked years ago and I found out, I said, well, why they keep coming here? Businesses, people still go to work. You cannot have a job if you don't work in the city of Atlanta. It depends on what your profession. If you're in politics or if you're a lawyer, or if you're a construction worker, there's jobs out here. They never stay jobless. Even the homeless person can get a job. The thing is, he ain't got no house. He lives like a minimalist. So that city's always working. So I know what they're trying to do. Their model is in the future, because back in the day, Atlanta was like just black owned and HBCUs and things like that. The churches the churches back at the city, and the colleges, and that's the thing. And people don't understand, like the sports, they all pitch in. But I've seen this for decades that they're changing the way in tech now. See, everybody's in tech now. Everybody's streaming and doing things and learning about
because
research.
they're a media hub. Remember?
Yeah.
What's your
I mean, the media is CNN and TNT, Turner. They still got Turner.
Well, not just Turner, but what's the movie director? Tyler Perry.
Tyler Perry, yeah, he's another one.
Yeah, he has a big influence down there too, and so he brings money into the city, into the state, because he does movies and stuff down there. And that's what I'm saying. Like all of these factions, when you aggregate it, when you put them together, they drive a lot of political influence. So if they say that we don't agree with voter restrictions and something of that nature, or some kind of thing that was proposed on the ballot, a bill, they have the ability to influence that. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that has to be taken into consideration, and it shouldn't be looked at as like, well, maybe AOC, she's somebody that, is causing disruption, and we need to get rid of her. You get rid of her, you still have to deal with those institutions. You still have to deal with all those other influencers on the ground. She's just one person. She can be replaced easily within the squad. They can rotate around. That's why they're the squad. But the thing is, if you don't understand all of the moving pieces and the influences on the ground, it's not, you're missing the bigger picture.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times you can't replace someone like that. It's always more, and it's always young politicians trying to come up and change the structure of the city, and especially in the state. Now, the outskirts of Georgia, I would say outside of Atlanta, I mean, that's growing too, because people's coming from different places to live, because the city is so damn expensive. Like, yes, they have a 5% tax rate. Me and Wacky discussed this on when we was talking about the rap battle with Lux and the I would say like the Dipset battle,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we discussed it about the housing down here. Well, it's a little different. Depends on what you're looking for in Atlanta. If you're not coming here for entertainment, if you want to do business with people like the lawyers and the politics, you got to know somebody. They'll hook you up. They'll set you up in the system and train you, and you have to actually apply yourself down here. It's still the same thing. It's just different things. Now they're worrying about COVID right now, so they're getting everybody vaccinated and be right because they don't want no city to shut down like that. They can't afford it. That's why they try and get rid of Kemp, because he's not giving everybody no health care. That's why he's going to lose next year, because people are against him now. You got conservatives against him on the Republican side and the Democrat side because he's not doing his job, and he's been I ain't gonna say stealing the money. He's worse than Purdue. So a lot of these dudes that's Trumpians, they're getting them flushed out of Georgia. Trump lost a lot of reputation in Georgia. They mad as hell at him right now. So they're focused on something different. That's why, what's her name? Stacey Abrams is the favorite, but she will have some pushback and competition in the race. So I believe she's gonna win it this year. It'll be official. I forget the mayor of Atlanta is. I don't know if it's
Keisha
white.
Lance Bottoms.
Yeah, Lance Bottoms currently. Yeah, I don't know if she's gonna win this time. They'll have
No,
a
she's
different.
not. She's not running again. She's not running.
She's not running it. Okay, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, it's gonna be somebody different. And she
Yeah.
did something with the police chief that was dumb though. That's what cost her. She could have just kept her head. But see, when the riots came in the protests, and I was trying to tell SKC, well, when the George Floyd incident happened, that was worldwide. That was like national and worldwide. They was protesting everything. But Atlanta was the biggest because Killer Mike was crying on stage trying to defend the stuff, and the police, well, it's not that much to defend if you try to tell them to stand down. It was in the main CNN building. That's the most liberal buildings I've seen in a long time. I've been to CNN, that main building, and it is what it is, what I thought it was. And it was not conservative to me because they have people that think like that. But and it's a nice building. I've seen they broadcast and everything, they gear and all that stuff, that how they do the news. That's the main. I didn't know that was the main building in Atlanta. I thought it was in New York and up there. And it's Atlanta's like that hub, because it sends out different media spots, and then people around the world come there. Yeah, they have restaurants there inside, but that's the main spot.
Yeah, Porsche headquarters of America is in Atlanta.
Yeah. And then I thought about Turner too. They still out there. So, we got the media in the schools. The thing is, there's not enough Black independent media that talks about this stuff we talk about on panels and stuff. And the reason why we don't have that is because we don't have a structure of what we want to do outside of it. Because, Atlanta's a perfect place to start, get your business off the ground, like where you live at, Mike, and in Boston and places like that. New York's like the main stage. Then you got DC, the heart of, of America, of its little country and whatever.
Yeah.
And I forgot about Philly too, because that's another one, these powerhouse cities, and LA. See, when you get to the Chicago part, that's when it gets tricky. Some people don't want to work out there because of the, minus the violence. But I'm just saying, Chicago's not a bad place. It's just the Republicans done messed that city and that state up. It's just ain't even funny. I don't know what to believe anymore. So now it is.
No, they just haven't built enough housing.
That too.
They've built enough public housing so that they can get a lot of those Black men off the streets. Because it's really Black men that are homeless, not really so much as Black women. But
right.
I saw a lot
That's true.
A lot of brothers begging for change. Young millennials, like, this is insane. But
it's same like that. I believe in Atlanta too. It's a lot of homelessness in the downtown area, not just the Buckhead. I'm talking about downtown. If you ride around certain parts of West Atlanta, it's a mess. They around my age and down below, like in their 20s and teens, looking for jobs. And I don't know what Biden's going to do for the next 2 to 3 years or 4 years. It's going to produce all that. We'll see who our new governor is. Are they going to create jobs through him, and who's going to be in the House? That's what I'm looking at next year. Because election year is going to be big in Georgia. Everybody's going to be excited. It's different. And I think
No, I was just going to say that I think what happens in Georgia in 2022 is going to determine what happens throughout the rest of the South.
Yeah. I see Georgia going blue again because a lot of counties outside of Fulton, a lot of people hate Fulton and city of Atlanta for a lot of reasons. Corruption. A lot of people that you see Black there, they're not even originally from Atlanta. They from somewhere else. And I think Fantastic mentioned that. He's correct, because I lived in Atlanta for decades. You got too many people come from different places, and it's a shame. It's about money. My dad will tell you this too if you ever met him. He said it's the same old stuff. You know, you just got to move around it and try to work with it. But some people just like they give up. They say, "No, I'm going to LA or Vegas somewhere to do my politics. I can't do it here because it's so much, you know, red herring." And then you got guys like Trump try to conquest that, and he failed to do that. Thank goodness, because if his way would have worked here, it'd have been the same thing like we've been seeing with Sonny Perdue and others. Republicans have never did a good job in the city of Atlanta as governor. I'm gonna tell you that right now. They just never did. They just have a bad reputation like that. The Democrats have always kept Georgia afloat. That's why Georgia always been a blue state. It never was a red state to me, because I don't care how many counties it was red, but it had so much blue influence. And I did not know that, because that's why John Ossoff won. And that's why he's going to remain as a Senate there, because of his background and his people and the money and things like that. Yeah, his people's not the richest ones, but they do work. If they hire you one day, like no matter if you're black or Latino, whatever, or them, you got to work out there. You know, because that state itself is a working state. It's not like any other southern state. When I came from, see, where I came from, yeah, we had jobs, but we didn't have the infrastructure like Georgia did. Georgia had all the resources from up north, overseas, from China.
It's an international hub.
Yeah, that's all it is. And I had to learn that when man.
Yeah, with your other states like Tennessee and Kentucky, they're not really international. Georgia is to the south what Massachusetts is to New England.
And so, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And so if all the center of economic power resides in Massachusetts, and so New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, Connecticut, and Rhode Island are very dependent upon what happens in Massachusetts, because a lot of people do live in those other states, but they come to work in Massachusetts. And so if things fall apart economically in Massachusetts, it's going to be a ripple effect and hit all the other states. Same thing in Georgia. If things don't work right in Georgia, then
everybody falls.
Kentucky,
that's true.
Tennessee, Alabama, they're really going to feel it. It's South Carolina, they're going to feel it.
I'll tell you how it goes. It starts Tennessee first because it's connected. Then it hits Kentucky, then the Carolinas, and Virginia a little bit, and sometimes Texas. Now, Texas, yes, it can be its own little, they tried to be their own little country in 2013, but Obama wouldn't let that happen, because they said that on RT. This, you didn't have enough resources in the, what I mentioned before, the military. You don't have that because the PMCs that we got in this country, you don't have the resources like they do, because just like I said, like you said about Massachusetts, you got to have that. Without it, you can't function. That's why the country won't make it past 300 years or 1,000, because you got to maintain that stuff and growth, and people's changing their diets, plant-based and stuff. A lot of that stuff costs money and taxes, you know, like you got to produce the work, you know. But in Georgia, you got to work, because I do notice that years ago, because there's jobs here. It's just getting people in them, you know what I mean, and the paperwork and things like that. That's the trick here. But outside of that, once you get the job, you're good. As long as you stay on time, do your time, and the politics is efficient. You got to be respectful and things like that. Don't be like the Trumpians online, because they watching you on your job, because they study this YouTube stuff. That's the only state that clamps down on right-wing talking points. I've noticed that, because years ago they didn't, but now they like what they saw from Trump. They said, nah, we don't want that rhetoric. You know, they're trying to change, to clean their image. Tennessee is the only state that has a problem with that. Every other southern state's trying to follow the Georgia path, because of the people coming in from the West and where you come from, and overseas in France, you know, in Canada, because Georgia's that international hub. You got too many people want businesses, you know, they don't want to hear right-wing fascism politics. They don't want to deal with that, because you got too many bouncing around like you saw at the Capitol, and they look at that, they say, I want to live here. You know, I try to tell people, you got to get organized. Black men in this state, you can be organized faster than any other southern state there is. I mean, there's other states you can do, like the Carolinas, like North Carolina, that's it. And Texas, those three, that's all I'm saying. Florida too. but everywhere else, not so much. Not where I'm from. No, that takes time, at least 5 to 10 years to change the demographic. Yeah, you had your Sudanese in the central part of Tennessee, up north where I used to live, and Chinese. That's it. But you need a little bit of everybody. Yes, we have Mexicans and everything else, but that ain't enough. We have El Salvadorians. That ain't enough. We need different people. That state has a lot of good housing too. It's cheap. It's not expensive. It's cheap. Cheap housing. You can still live there. You can solve the homeless problem and just put them in that state alone, especially in the central. Definitely the West Tennessee. East Tennessee's fine. It's just the central and the West. That's my concern, because older people are dying. You need young people in those areas, period. Yeah. And that solves the problem right there, and especially Kentucky. Georgia can solve that in one night if they want to. They just too stubborn, with the money and things like that. So you know how it is.
You got a question in the chat.
He said, "What kind of work is prevalent in Tennessee, sir?" I would say the most prevalent. I won't say trucking, but I would say not in politics. I will say if you're doing anything tech wise that's prevalent, but they don't have the infrastructure, I would say I'll say construction for one. That's one, because Nashville is still growing. They're trying to be like Atlanta. They're following their footsteps. The problem with Nashville, though, they're not as diverse as Atlanta. They have a lot of diversity, but not as much as the other parts of the cities. And what's hurting them is it's their culture. You know what I'm saying? They're too conservative, and that's why I don't understand Ben Shapiro going there. That's a racist region. And I just shake my head at those guys. I said, no, Ben Shapiro is not a true conservative to me. I'm sorry. I mean, I just don't take him seriously like that. You go to a ultra conservative state like Tennessee, they'll eat him alive, man.
Yeah, he's a grifter, and that's kind of where
that's backwards to me. That's backwards. They don't like guys like him with money like that. They killed him for bread. They lynched him worse than we do in Redbone Street. He wouldn't even last where I come from. They'll split him open, man. It's just like, see, I don't get when people don't understand about the state I come from. They put hands on you. They still believe that.
Yeah.
And the gunplay. I tell people, when you come from that state, it reminds you of Illinois a little bit, but because most of those Illinois people come from that state in Mississippi, if you're black, and in those days they had to go to Chicago. Because I got cousins in Chicago, and that makes sense because we used to that timeline, that central time. That's hard work, hard labor, and factory jobs. I mean, that's probably prevalent down there, Sir Anthony. But I'm just saying, most people don't want to work those jobs. They want to go out of state. See, like I said, Georgia and that tech stuff.
Yeah. To answer Sir Anthony's question, kind of work is prevalent in Tennessee. You still have a lot of agriculture in Tennessee.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I was about to say. Agriculture. That's it. In factory work.
Yeah. Plus you have the universities in Tennessee as well. Tennessee still has
you got Vanderbilt, you got UT, MTSU. That's where they were named after the Klan. They call them the Blue Raiders. I told that story before about Nathan Bedford Forrest statue. There was a guy named President Walker. My dad said he told them people take that statue down because he didn't want to scare the African American students at the time in the 70s. See, my dad's an early boomer. Mm-hmm. He told me that story every time to this day, and he went to that school too. It's in Murfreesboro. It's in Rutherford County. Anytime you see a license plate named Rutherford County, that's Murfreesboro. That's in the middle. That's in the central. That's like a couple of miles from Davidson County. That's in Nashville. So I'm familiar with that region. You can ask me anything about Tennessee, because Tennessee is known for their agriculture, even though it's a wilderness state. They got a lot of jobs, like the lumberjacking and things like that, and construction. The housing is cheap in that region. You can still get housing out there. It ain't, it's a lot of construction work to fix the housing and things like that. So the older people and older generations are dying from, I'll say, World War II, from silent boomer. Mm-hmm. They're not, because of the COVID thing, and it's a mess. But like you said, yeah. You just got to look at your future, because I already know where the future is going. Most people are coming to Georgia, Florida, Texas, the Carolinas. That's where all the tech is going to go. Now, Tennessee will be interesting because they're going to have to get rid of the racism in the central, not the west and the east. They're on board. It's just the places in Nashville and outskirts of those other counties that believe like Trump in them. That's the problem. Once they clean that up, they'll be fine.
Yeah,
They'll be on board. You know, if I'll say it like this: if Georgia turns blue next year and beyond, Tennessee will flip immediately. Immediately. Oh, I found some research on the states that he lost. Barry Goldwater. He said it's a lot of such states like Georgia was red, but what I've noticed from Tennessee and everywhere else was blue. Interesting. Back in the 60s. I did not know that. I saw a picture of that. I was like, whoa. Let's see if I can find it. The states that he. Let's see. I found that. No, I might have to type in. Hold on.
he got all the southern states,
Yeah.
all the
And the rest
Confederate
of the states.
states.
Yeah, and then the rest is blue. I found Tennessee and Kentucky interesting. Wow. Damn. Oh, that's his son. Oh, his son's born in the 30s. Oh, his son's still alive. Okay, Barry Goldwater Jr.
Yeah, he had influence in the Trump campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah, they asked him about would you compare Trump to your father? Hell no.
Smart man.
Yeah, they're radically different.
Totally different. Yeah. Trump's a liberal.
If you do a Google search on Barry Goldwater's son on Trump, I think it was just before maybe 2019, 2020, the article came out. You might be able to find it. It's just a really interesting article about how his son portrayed Trump. And so same thing with Michael Reagan, I think, too. Ronald Reagan's son.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. Okay. I'm going to stop this right quick because I'm going to put this in. Share the screen. Hold on. Yeah. This is nothing to me. Okay, let me get my research right here. Okay, Barry Goldwater Jr. on comparisons between his father, Donald Trump. Let me knock this out. There we go. There we go. He said many analysts have compared Donald Trump campaign with that Barry Goldwater, the outspoken conservative Arizona senator who lost in 1964 landslide to Lyndon Johnson. Saturday, Trump invited the comparison, hosting a fundraiser in the late Arizona senator's former home. Goldwater family no longer owns that property in Paradise Valley, Arizona, but the event has nonetheless fueled comparisons to conservative icon. Yeah, here now, Peter. Okay, no, they're different. 70%, and they said yes, it's 29%. Damn. I did that on Twitter.
Yeah, that's why I say this is important to understand. I'm glad you're bringing up Barry Goldwater today, but
yeah, I had to.
Some of these people in the space don't understand the significance of who Goldwater is and where Trump is today, and where the conservative movement is today. And that if they don't think that there's any similarity, the majority don't think there's any similarity between Trump and Goldwater. What does that say about Trump's credibility as a conservative?
Right. Yeah.
That's the key point that I've been trying to bang since last year. And a lot of these guys in here think that, I'm blowing smoke, and I'm saying, no, this is actually what the deal is. This is the data. The data says this. So you can argue all you want to, but this is the data. I work with the data. I don't work with people's beliefs. I work with the data. If the data says 70% of people on that side don't think there's any significance between Trump and Goldwater, and they consider Goldwater to be the founding father of the modern day conservative movement. What does that say about Trump, and what does that say about you as a quote unquote conservative?
Yeah, because Trump's a liberal, man. He's one of those. I don't know what type of liberal he is, because he's one of those that, and he's a grifting type liberal too, lean
Yeah,
towards the right.
yeah,
He
anything
just
for
played the
money.
conservative. Yeah, he played the conservative game very well, and then the conservatives find out that he was messing up the money. That's why they got him up out of there. Thank goodness. But I ain't gonna say they use COVID. That's part of it, but it's more to it. They want him gone. And
Mhm.
since he didn't take responsibility of COVID, that was the way to say, you know what, he's not capable of fixing this country. And they look at things like that. That's why they voted for Biden. Biden makes more sense because he's like Goldwater. You know, he's got the tactics.
He was a gold order. He was a gold order acolyte
Yeah,
himself.
himself. Yeah, man. It's a bunch of them. Clinton. You got some in the Republican side too. I can name some names. That's why the next one's gonna be the faces. I'm gonna find some links. Who is what, and you can structure, and we can go back to Goldwater and say, yeah, we can say that, because I'm gonna start doing that and make a file on it, because yeah, right there, this is important. I'm gonna put this in the conserve folder in a bookmark, because you know, if anybody wants to challenge, have at it. Because you know, this right here proves 70% on Twitter was saying that. Yeah, it's a bunch of data saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's important. You know, a lot of people in this space want to make him out to be the the golden child of the conservative movement. I'm sorry, this is not
No,
him.
no, 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 no,
I'm
no, no,
sorry,
no.
this is not him, bro.
No,
I
sir.
know you need to believe this. I know it feels good emotionally to engage this area of politics, but this is not it, man. It's just not it, man. You know,
It ain't
a
it.
lot of people thought that Humpty Hump was separate from Shock G, man. You know, when Shock G died,
Nah.
so did Humpty Hump.
Yeah. That's his thing. Yeah. Shock G was Shock G. He played the character well, and he gonna be the voice of that. It's just like anything else.
Yeah.
And you can't change who you are, man. You just can't change who you are. It's just like in politics, you got to study it right. When I talk about politics, I talk it in a structural way and do the research before I speak. I used to do that in the barbershop too, talking to people about it. And I have to be careful what I say, because a lot of people get emotional, especially black people. Now, other races, I have no issue. I've noticed that it's structural, and you'll get good pushback, and sometimes not as physical. Especially in Tennessee, you know, if you know what you're talking about, and they'll respect you. You know, even white conservatives, and they even not like certain of their own, because they don't stick together. Like I mentioned earlier in the stream, because 9 out of 10 they don't stick together, because a lot of it is money based. That's what they believe. You know, all conservatives ain't on the same vein. Now, if you're a physical conservative, yeah, you're supposed to do the work. Now, if you're, I don't like the term liberal conservative. I understand why they did that American wise. I get it, you know. And then you got your libertarians and like that. Now, libertarian, that's a separate ideology. I will go in depth on that on a separate stream. Besides, I have my series with the conservative on this one. I'm gonna do a 2-part one. Same with the liberal. I'm gonna be fair on that one. And then if anybody asks me about libertarians, well, I'm gonna talk about that too, because a lot of people like that now. So, you know, but the conservative thing on here is just, it's really sad. They don't really do the research. They just really don't. What's going on, RPA?
They don't talk about, see, when it comes to libertarianism, they don't talk about how that impacted the last election. They don't talk about how Joe Jurgensen took 5%.
Yeah, the female. Yeah, she was like 1% of the vote. Yeah,
no,
I'm gonna
5%.
talk about that.
She took up to 5% of the vote from Trump, and so
yeah, she did. Yeah,
that 1 to 2% margin that Trump needed to beat Biden, he couldn't get that because Joe Jurgensen came in as the third party and took that. But see, they don't talk about that. You know, they'll blame it on, you know, ballot harvesting and stealing and, you know, stealing of the election. Nah, bro, you got to look at all the data. The data says that Joe Jurgensen came in. All Joe Jurgensen needed was 1.3 or 1.2% of the vote.
Yeah.
And she got 1.5 or more in a lot of areas. And that caused disruption for Trump.
Yeah, she had 5%. I would say like during the end,
her home state. I think she got 5%.
Yeah, because at the start of the election, when I was watching it, it started at 1%. I said, "How did she get 5%?" I said, "Oh, the Trump." Oh, and I said, "Yeah,
well,
I know why."
The dissatisfied Trump supporters or
Yeah, they
Republican
went to libertarian.
supporters.
Yeah.
They went libertarian and said, you know what, I'm done with Trump. I'm done with this party. I'm over here now. I'm never going to the Democrats, but I'm coming over here. And that's what caused a lot of the shifting of in the final days of the race. No one on that side is talking about that. She's a libertarian, and you're going to cover libertarianism at some point, but she's important to understand that
I'll put it in there.
A nobody came in and took over 1% of the vote.
I'm gonna cover that. I have to cover all of it, and the ones is actual libertarians. I was gonna cover Thatcher in this too, and the conservative. I'll cover her next time with the British and show how they work, how we function, and compare the two. I'll do something like that. I have to go in depth on use Barry, on use everybody historically, and probably tie it into his conservatism and give it a proper context and look up the list who did what in policies. You know, that's another thing. You know? They do matter when you start talking to actual people. So you got to have it structured right.
I mean, they consider her to be a conservative, but she drove the United Kingdom into the ground by her picking up office, you know, financially. But see, nobody talks about that. You know, I understand some guys may not be following that level of politics, but, you know, for all the conservative movement wants to, in this space, that they want to talk about how, you know, great it is to be a conservative. The conservative movement does not have a really strong track record, brand wise, from a Republican standpoint. Joe Biden, Bill Clinton, you know, they were more conservative than Trump is back then than Trump is today. And so you try to have this conversation, and it's like, oh, well, I don't like them because they're liberals. Are you kidding me? Do you know what this guy's background is? This guy is not some kind of rainbow flag waving. No, that's not who these people are.
There's more liberals in the Republican side I've ever seen in my lifetime. They used to be on, I don't want to say Democrats. They split off. The ones that's quiet, the ones that's loud, like the Milo Yiannopoulos. He's one. He's on that side because him and Gavin McInnes, they were pro Republican type people, even though Gavin was a Canadian one. But he mentioned 3 cities, but he says technically 2. He said Vancouver, and he said this about Toronto because people go there. But Montreal, you have to speak French. You know, they do not like the British Canadians. So Canada's not all French. It's both French and British, and they still fighting for, you know, territory because they got old history from the French Indian War and all that stuff. And I told them that there's a reason for that, because America is unique. We accept everybody except what their standards are up there, because Canada's no better. I mean, I had a guy on here, he was a Canadian. He said the stuff is too hot. Well, that's why y'all coming down to Georgia. I see a Canadian license plate down here all the time. And you've seen this too, Mike. Like, they coming back and forth. And a lot of these countries know America is the only liberal jewel that you're going to serve when it comes to money and things like that. Now, conservatism around the world, they have bad reputations. It's not as great as people think it is. And I try to tell these guys in space, no, it's not. Trust me. Y'all don't want that patriarchy. Why you think Justin Andre was telling me about Japan? They're trying to go back to the old ways, what they used to do. They know what that different flag mean. And he said that on the stream. He said they're trying to go back to them ways. And you know what happens? It backfires, and people don't want that. They want this American, I don't want to say American dream, but the lifestyle, you know. And I try to tell people now they just want the same stuff they've always been. And I learned to accept it over the years. I said, well, that's America for you. Yeah. Like I said, the good guy image. And I get it. You know, that's just what America's about, you know.
Well, the thing is, the French-speaking Canada, you know, has always tried to succeed in the same way Texas has talked about succeeding from the Union too, right? And so they have that issue. They, you know, when Macron from France comes to Canada, he comes straight there. He skips over everything else. Justin Trudeau, you know, Justin Trudeau is the prime minister. He goes straight there, and so they still have some semblance of influence, you know, from a political perspective. But a lot of your far right is coming out of that sector. Remember when there was a mass shooting up in Canada during
Yes, I remember.
He was a Trump supporter. He was a Trump supporter. He had a MAGA hat and everything, all the memorabilia all the merchandise and stuff. And so he carried out a mass shooting against Muslims when Trump put the Muslim ban in place. And so these sort of intricate details may seem, very, not authentic or not necessary to actually discuss, but it's actually relevant if you want to talk about politics at that level, at that deeper level, as to
it's very relevant. Yeah.
as to where your trajectory is going to be and what's happening and what's going to come out of all these sort of elections and stuff like that. Because a lot of these people in the space only hold on to the ideology of conservatism, but don't actually understand the foundation and the structures around it and what makes it move, what grinds the gears and stuff like that, what loops it and whatnot. So yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I'm gonna get up off here.
All right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to appreciate Mike V for coming on. Yeah, it's been 2 hours, and I talked about a little bit of conservatism. This is part one. I will do a part two and put the faces on conservatives. I won't make a playlist right now and things like that, but I'm gonna save it to a playlist. I'm gonna make a new playlist. I'm gonna talk about it's gonna be public. Hold on. As we can see right now. Yeah, there we go. And create. And yeah, what's that video? Yeah, it's streaming right now. Yeah, this is gonna be part one. I will do a part two of this, and it's gonna be a 2-part series. And I will do one with liberalism, the actual liberalism, and then I'll have to put philosophies behind it. But conservatism is, like I said, we covered. I had SKC and Mike V on, and if y'all want to come up, that's cool, because I will probably end it around, I will say, probably around 6 o'clock. If not, I can shut this down because 3 hours is kind of like the limit. If anybody don't come up or whatever, I wait till 3 hours come through. But I'm just saying, because a lot of times, like I said, Barry Goldwater is mentioned. I have to talk about it because that's one of the pieces that I want in the politics part. The progressivism, that's going to be a separate thing. I will do libertarianism and things like that. Now, progressivism, if you want to talk about it, yes, we're going to talk about John Stuart Mill, the utilitarian guy. That's when you get into this type of discussions, the progressive era and affirmative action and democratic socialism, left-wing politics, liberalism, and all that. I will talk about liberalism in a separate part series. I got to date them and do a 2-part series because I'm going to get into the meat of it. And we can have that discussion. But yeah, man, because it's a lot that was covered today. So we had the links and everything. So I like to be precise when I'm talking about, because once you have it, then and I got everything on libertarianism, and then I'll put the people and the faces on it. See, I use the Nolan chart. I'm gonna put this on here and talk about the views and things like that. So you know what I'm saying? Like, I know people are coming through. And yeah. So I will be back, do another stream. It's gonna be called the Sunday Chills. I will do Sunday Chills. It's gonna be at 7:40, and we're going to talk about what's going on in the sphere and things like that. I know people is talking about gear and everything else, but I'll be back. I will be back in a couple more hours, and I think it's like 7:50 or something like that. Yeah, I'll start then. I'll do the Sunday chill stream. That'll be like my second stream, and I'll extend it and things like that. And yeah, y'all come through. It's an open discussion. We can talk about anything we want, and see what's going on and things like that nature. But this one is a good subject matter. I appreciate people coming through, and because I know people are not coming right away. But yeah, I'm just gonna say, hold on. Let me see real quick. If y'all don't want to come up, If y'all want to come up, that's fine. I'll end it at 6 because I got time. Because the next hour will be 7. I had to start another stream. So because I'm doing 2 streams on Sundays because I got the Sunday chill. I always push it at night. Because once you do one stream and nobody wants to show up, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it's the last call. If y'all want to come up, discuss what we want to discuss, I'll bring in the Nolan chart. But yeah, that's the thing. But yeah, I'll discuss what's going on about the situation. I already covered the girl and everything, and I think Kudu was talking about people getting messed up into prostitution. Yeah, he said that in the stream. I gotta watch the restream of the 9-hour stream of me talking about the Friday special and things like that, and that's a good stream. So for me to look at, yeah, because I ain't gonna probably watch no streams after this. After I get done with platinums, I'll share someone's stuff and then just move around, and I'm gonna be out of there because I'll think about myself too. But you know what I'm saying, like, because I know people are gonna stream whatever. Yeah, but I'll wait until he hits 510. I'll end it or whatever. Yeah, because yeah, we covered everything. I think the good thing is we discussed Barry Goldwater. We discussed Phil Valentine. We talked about a little bit of everything and conservatism wise. But a part 2, I will go in depth. I will find faces of conservatives and things like that. I will get into it. But once you get into it, you just get it right, man. So you know what I'm saying? Like, I know I'm here and people want to try to derail whatever, but I'll shut this down. But I will be back around 7:50, because 7:50 I'll be entrenched, and that's the thing about me, like, just slide through, and I'm not trying to worry about anybody. So you know what I'm saying, like, I'm not tripping right now. But yeah. So I'm just gonna wait till the time clocks down. But yeah. So what you have is you have things going for you, and I'm just gonna go around and explain this. But when you talk about conservatism, it needs to be structured in conversation and based, and that's the thing. So you got to have it structured, and I'll talk about the rest of it probably next week, not this week, but next week, and I'll schedule it. And it may be it might be a Wednesday stream. It might be a Wednesday stream, and I'll go in depth. I may open up the panel sooner or later, but I'll go in depth on that, because Wednesday night that'd be something to deal with, because mainly you just have what you have here. And yeah, I'd have covered everything I needed in part 1, because bringing up Barry Goldwater is very important. I think to learn about him and conservatism, you want to put it in the right proper context. So you know what I'm saying, like, and that's just the thing. And I'm not even tripping. Oh, she's mad at Wallow. She ain't gonna do it that long. Speed. Everybody's watching 303. You know what I'm saying? Like, but yeah, I will be back. I'll be back on the with the Sunday chill, and we'll talk about some different things. But we're gonna do an update what the situation is, and I ain't gonna talk too much about tricking or anything. I'm just gonna be just structured with it and just be like, you know what I mean, and see what's going on and things like that. So and I think I talked to Coot about certain things last night too. But I gotta check up on that 9-hour stream. So and oh, okay, cool. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you stopping by. Yeah, man. Because I'll wait to it gets to that 5:10. If it gets to the 3 hour, and I'll shut it down. Shout everybody out. Yeah, shout out Sir Anthony, RPA, Degenerate. Shouts out to Mike V and SKC coming through. Juan G's Underrated Darkness for the share. Appreciate you coming through, brother, on the panel as well. Pastor $40. Yeah, I'm over there now. And the man, appreciate you coming here. He's over there right now. And antisocial and things like that. So yeah, man. We're gonna be back and do another stream because I'm not gonna stay on that long because you know what I'm saying? Like, I got a Sunday chill. So, people doing these live streams, I'm just like, I'm chilling, bro. So I'm saying, like, yeah, I appreciate everybody coming through. And Third Ward Columbia. Yeah, I forgot. Third Ward. Yeah, I know people's coming through. But the Sunday chill is going to be commenced. I mean, I'm trying to get 3 hours out of this one so I can say, this is a piece of the conversation and things like that. So I can get the hour in and things like that. So as we discussed the Nolan chart, he's a libertarian. So let me see if y'all heads are rocking with me right now. And the reason I brought it up in the conservative thing, I'll bring it again and talk about the ideologies. It's a series, what I'm talking about. Then you got authoritarianism and things like that. I should have had the political chart. It's just one of those things you got to deal with, man. So, no, I'm scheduled for tonight, and I keep it funky. I get raw on there. So yes, 7:50. I created on the 3rd of August, the 30th. Yeah, so Sunday Chill, number 3, and it's gonna go in my playlist as well. With Sunday Chill, I have 2 of them. I already did number 1, did number 2. First one was 6 hours. The other one's 4 hours. I don't know when the next one's gonna be because it may not last long. This is Sunday Chill. So Sunday chills are like open discussions. We talk about different things and things like that nature. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not worried I have a Zodiac week. That would be the 8th. That's the 12 houses. I'll talk about it. Tarot cards. Friday special madness. That's an open discussion. We'll talk about a little bit of everything there Friday, see what's going on and put some pieces together and things like that. But that's just how it's gonna be, and I'm gonna make some playlists on the madness and just stick with the content and things like that nature. But yeah, Sunday chills are just relax and chill on the Sunday and just talk about real things. So you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not worried about it. So yeah, we're gonna knock this off and we're just gonna be like, we here. We with it. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, check out for me the later on night because I'll be in that stream. Do another one. It's a Sunday chill. What's going on, Nicer? And I'll do a stream probably at the time tonight. It'll be like 7:50. So, you know, just watch out for that one. So, you know, I'm about to shut this one down. I done shouted, everybody else came through, and Nicer came in the last minute. Oh, I forgot one person, Sound Mind. Appreciate you, man. And yeah. So with that, I want to say shalom and peace.